got another. stuck inside of these walls within. I don't recognize who I've turned into. I'm losing hope and getting myself back. Everything around me is starting to turn black. Don't tell me you're hurt again. Tell me how wrong I am. Tell me how it's all my fault. Yeah, I've met my match again, starting from scratch again. Where is the pleasure in all this pain? Don't you lie to me and say it's all okay when it feels like I'm drowning. I hate to say goodbye, but it's time to go. All I need is someone else. I've never felt more divided than now. Every word that leaves your lips never means how it sounds. You've conquered the best of me, could have just set me free. Games that you play are just second hand. And now I'm beside myself, don't want your fucking help. Let me just go, let me just go. And don't you lie to me and say it's all okay when it feels like I'm drowning. I hate to say goodbye, but it's time to go. All I need is
No skills. That guy can't shoot straight. Even on still targets, I'm sure he'd miss.
A little bit more to the right.
No, left! You're making it worse! I can't help it!
Whatever he shoots with, he must have the worst aim in the world. Or maybe the worst in the whole galaxy. And even with superpowers, he'd still be far from super. Such an easy win.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hello and welcome to the XP Women's League. We're coming into the second semi-finals of playoffs, and we have a couple of fresh faces here. My name is Blue Panda. Joining me is Darksider, fresh off the Community Cup over on the Aussie Blackbeard channel. Dark, how are we feeling going into tonight?
Mate, I am super. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit nervous. You just got to get those pre-game jitters out. I am relatively new. I just see a freshly clean shaven face to the stream. So looking forward to the games tonight and to see what these ladies can pump out for us in terms of content. So very keen to be here, mate.
Yeah, and speaking of the ladies involved, ShadowNet versus Nocturnal coming into this. Both teams, they've had a pretty decent run through the regular season. ShadowNet, they're sitting quite comfortably at the moment on the leaderboard. And look, hey, these girls have been in the comp. See, some of them are new, but unfortunately, we have had confirmation Minxie won't be able to make it tonight. There will be a standard coming in. But on your screen, you see the leaderboards. Elevate, they took out first place with a 6-0 scoreline, 36-round differential, Dark. That's a pretty significant showing.
Yeah, it's pretty significant. And I guess when we sort of move down the ladder a little bit, ShadowNet is definitely one we can't forget to talk about. Obviously, we're here to see them come up against Nocturnal tonight, but they're essentially almost undefeated run with the exception of the one loss they had, funnily enough, which was against Elevate on Oregon in a 2-7 defeat. So, they had a pretty clean run coming up to this, which of course then flows into Nocturnal, sitting on a 6-match, 4-win, 2 losses. One of them again being to Nocturnal a bit earlier on, and then into Elevate as well. Sorry, in ShadowNet and then into Elevate as well. So, these teams have got some pretty solid track records in terms of round differentiation, pretty much on par. Points difference, not a huge gap. So, when it comes to lineup and players that we'll see tonight, it is anyone's competition, Blue. It's anyone's competition tonight.
Yeah, and speaking of the competition, it is a best of 3 here in the semi-final. So we got 3 phenomenal maps coming your way here tonight. To kick things off, it's going to be Consulate. It's a map that has made its way back into popularity in the comp scene. It's seen a lot of play in recent weeks, and it's a map that has swung a little bit more in the attacker side, even more so with the recent changes in the On Dawn. It makes for some great frag play as well. Map number 2. Cafe Dostoevsky. It's a map that both teams have played plenty of so far, but it's a little bit more strat heavy in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of deciders for tonight and where we'll see it, should these teams win a piece each, we will be going off to Coastline, which is where we get to kick back, relax, and enjoy what I'm hoping will be an absolute frag fest later on, assuming that this is not taken out earlier by the teams playing tonight. So, as you said, they've all got a track history on these maps. They are confident and ready to play. So, very keen to see who takes these games out early on.
Yeah, looking overall, it's interesting. We did see a couple of unexpected bans coming out. Oregon was banned out by ShadowNet. It's a map they've played plenty throughout the season and had a pretty good showing on, but not going to be the case. And look, it's a best of 3. There is a chance we go the full distance Coastline. That frag fest. It's a map where you can afford to throw the strat book, not necessarily out the window, but at least use it to prop up your monitor rather than actually looking into it. So we are going to see them rely a little bit more on that. Moving on into what we've got coming up. ShadowNet starting off on attack on Consulate. It's probably going to give them a decent string of rounds. It is the preferred side for the majority of teams coming into Consulate at the moment with the changes that have been made in the new season. Yeah. We've also seen Console and Meeting sort of just completely fall off the radar. It's so hard to hold now with all the rappel games, the changes in terms of, Ash, having extra breaching rounds. They've got ways to deal with the utility. Jaeger and Wamai being hit as hard as they have. It's going to be interesting to see how these teams have adapted coming to the new season, obviously, and what strategies they'll be bringing to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're talking about meta changes for the people playing at home. Obviously, Jaeger had a pretty significant change this patch. Some would, argue probably one of the biggest changes to the defense meta from a Jaeger perspective we've seen since he was launched. And that was, of course, the ADSs getting a 10-second timer as opposed to a 3-charge burst before they're out of, ADSs. So, to your point around the Jaeger meta change, as he's such a critical part to any defensive lineup, having that change come this late into the season with all the defense and meta changes around attackers as well. That's going to be interesting to see how the teams, sort of work around that. And particularly talking about Nocturnal a minute for a second, because obviously we are seeing Consulate come up today. And when we look at the track records of, previous games they've played, that was one that they did lose against Elevate in a 7-1 defeat. So, how the girls are going to sort of come together and, really show that, hey, you know what, it was a once-off thing. We let it happen, but we're here to come back twice as hard and clutch this one out. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Well, and keeping in mind what is on the line here, the team that wins this matchup will move on into the grand final of the Women's League, secure themselves a spot against Elevate, who, if you were watching the other night in our other semi-final, took it out a clean 2-0, 7-1 against 71st. So they are looking to book themselves that spot. You can see there is going to be a third place match to figure out who, takes out the bronze medal, so to speak, against 71st later on. But I don't think either of these teams are looking forward to that match. They're both gunning for that grand final.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's full appreciation. And I guess a big thanks for the girls to contributing their time to be able to, throw down and come up some of the best. Obviously, Elevate had a pretty significant win the other night. So, when it comes around to grand final time, both ShadowNet and Nocturnal will have a pretty significant fight on their hand. 7-1 against 71st is certainly nothing to discount. So, ShadowNet and Nocturnal will battle it out tonight. And they've really got to, get their strats together and go through the strat book, as it were, to come up against what is looking to be essentially one of the best teams in the league right now. So, as you said, obviously competing for that first and second place, and then the gracious bronze, as it were, for third place, decided later in the week.
Yeah, and I mean, before we jump into our map, why don't we have a look at the rosters? We've got two very, very stellar teams on the board. If you aren't aware, ShadowNet, it's a New Zealand-based esports organization that has been making pretty big moves in the scene. Unfortunately, Minxie won't be making, so like I said earlier, she did have to step away. They've brought in another player, I believe, from the 71st roster. I can't remember who it is off the top of my head. But, I mean, look, they've got a great roster. Mons, Diana, Soy, Crips there. And Crumbspec, as the coach, has been doing a lot of work in behind the scenes. He's a player that has been heavily involved in Rainbow Six competitively in the last few months. He, if I remember correctly, he and his team won the University League as well. So he's definitely up there, definitely has a great grasp on the game. So this team is definitely going to be a formidable one.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your earlier point, ticked off is the one who is essentially being ticked off tonight from the 71st team. So they'll be filling in for Minxie, who's unable to jump into the game tonight. So we do hope Minxie is okay and everything's all good. And we will not see her play tonight, unfortunately. And ticked off from the 71st will fill into that spot. And of course, they will be coming up against Nocturnal, who is the opposing team tonight. Now, Nocturnal has a pretty solid lineup. Some names that you'll see in here are relatively familiar because a number of them are ex-Elevate, such as Aussie, Serenity, and Crescent as well. We do have AJ and Archon in there as well. Some pretty impressive KDs when we sort of flash back to previous seasons. These girls are pushing the 1.6, 1.9, which I can promise you right now is leagues above my own. So again, in terms of competition, and that's not to obviously discredit what the girls over at ShadowNet have done, because they are definitely up there in terms of the kill death feed as well. So pretty solid players, and considering their history with some of one of, I guess, arguably the best teams in the current lineup is it's going to play right into their hands. So again, Nocturnal definitely want to keep an eye on tonight.
Yeah, I mean, just the storylines alone, being dropped by Elevate, now coming and finding themselves in the semifinals, looking to get themselves a shot at redemption here and prove that it was a big mistake dropping them from the org. So, I mean, look, there's a lot on the line, and we're just, waiting on the last confirmations as to whether or not we're ready to get into map number one. Let's break it down a little bit here, Dark. We're coming into Consulate. It's going to be ShadowNet starting off on the attack. Surely that gives them an edge. What are we pegging for the halftime score?
Halftime score, look, and you can never. It's one thing I've learned in all of my thousands of hours of Siege at my hard stuck gold level is you can never fully predict how the rounds are going to play out. And I guess, coming into this, and it depends on what side of the fence you're sitting on, right? You're either going to want to come into this at a 3-3, but I mean, looking at the KD of these particular players, and I'm referencing, to Aussie Princess and Sav, and, these girls have a 1.6, 1.9. So to keep that level of competition to that sort of number, you know, they're here to frag and they're here to prove that. So, you know, with the likes of Mons and Soy and Diana and the rest of the crew, you know, they're going to have to make sure that they have their roam game strong. And I think Consulate is one of those maps where, you know, particularly talking about favorite sites, obviously it's either going to be downstairs, down in basement, or it's going to be CEO. It's going to be one of the two to start things off. Again, of course, I'm the caster, so they could totally flip it on the head and we end up in a piano and lobby for all I know. But, you know, they seem to be the most reoccurring picks. And when it comes to a very top floor or bottom floor defense, you know, the roam game is so critical in that. So very keen to see how these players adapt to that, particularly with the stats that we've seen from the teams in previous seasons.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of factors coming into play, just how well they can execute that roam, just how well their opponents counteract it on the attack. I'm expecting potentially some priority around the likes of a Nomad, potentially a Jackal as well, to enable more of that to be played out here. But hey, look, we're not going to know until we get into it. There's any number of bans. One thing I've learned, I cast a bit of NA, I cast a bit of EU as well. Never try and anticipate what an ANZ team is going to do, because they will always surprise you. They're very keen to pull the unknown out of the hat. But we've got confirmation. The little voice in our ear has said we're ready to send it into map number 1. Dark Consulate will be kicking off here. ShadowNet on the attack, Nocturnal on the defense. Operator bans will be hitting your screen in a moment. And, well, we've already talked. It's anyone's game at this point. Both teams want that grand final spot.
Absolutely. And I, a long time ago, learned to not bet a team too early because I've been proven wrong many times before, as the GLHFs come out and chat, which is always a bit of friendliness prior to the game starting. And we move across the banning phase over on Consulate. Now, typically on a site like this, or on a map like this, I would see Thatcher as the number 1 ban. Boom, I'm going 1 for 1. Can I go 4 for 4 is the question. Seems to be the track record that I'm able to foresee bans on this map. I would also expect a mirror on here, potentially a Jackal, depending on how the attack wants to approach their half. Obviously, if they're feeling pretty confident, they'll want to keep him up the pocket to be able to stop that roam game. If they're thinking, hey, you know what, we don't want Nocturnal to get the best of it, and they prove me totally wrong, and they go Blackbeard, which is another operator that makes total sense on this, particularly from the verticality on the rappel that Blackbeard can offer on somewhere like a CEO window with his face shield, proves quite a difficult operator to counterbalance when you can't headshot him when he's pixel peeking you from CEO window.
Yeah, and unfortunately, his defensive counterpart will be the follow-up ban, Veltri, taken out. It's an operator that has seen a huge amount of play on this map. The information gathering potential with the black eyes, it's just not worth risking. And Nocturnal, they'll close things out with a clash ban. And look, hey, I run up, I'm, you know, match up against some of these girls in casual and ranked every now and then. I've learned one thing that's very, very important. Never give them a chance to get that initial shot off, and that's exactly why this Blackbeard is taken away. These girls dirty on the trigger. They will not give you a chance. So I'm not surprised at all that we see it taken out. But Mira, you were pegging that was going to be banned out. No, it's going to be let through. It's making its way in for the basement defense. And look at that as well. Crenton bringing something a bit different. We might even see Ned Flanders hitting the ground running.
And then you see AJ quickly switch off the smoke. I'm wondering if she's going to six-pick back onto that, because Mirror, particularly on a garage cafeteria hole, can be such a powerful operator. That's exactly what we see there. Bringing those mirror windows downstairs into somewhere like a break room, or just overseeing that garage site, it's such a powerful utility. Not to mention the 1.5x on the Vector with the C4 in pocket. So she has an exceptionally powerful weapon. She has amazing utility, and her ability that she brings to the cards is quite powerful as well. So an all-round impressive operator for a map like this. So, interesting that it wasn't banned. Blackbeard does make sense. I'm still not arguing that. So again, let's see how this plays out. As we see AJ getting to work to reinforce, and can I call that a classic mirror strat? Like, is that at the point where it's classic? Because, I've seen this numerous times in terms of games that I've either sat back and reviewed quietly to myself in my lounge room, or had the pleasure of casting. And you'll see the mirror pop the shotgun, which is exactly what's happening here. Opening the quick peek hole so she can cover both bottom of yellow as well as, I guess, the default garage, right through to front of white van, and have a mirror down there so she can safely hit behind. Keen to see what Crescent does on the Warden. It is an operator that's definitely gaining traction in a number of situations. Obviously bringing the glasses utility where they can see through smoke and flashes, etc. So you'll see how the round plays out. Still very early days. It is anyone's game at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, look, we're getting into round number 1. It's a best of 3 as well. Unfortunately, yeah, it does seem we're having a couple of server issues. There's a bit of lag going on. Hopefully that does resolve itself before we get too deep into this matchup. But yeah, classic Mira setup there. Nothing crazy. I mean, look, to be honest, like I said, I cast a lot internationally. I've seen some weird and wonderful strats with the Mira, like the using it to deny the exothermic charge on the garage door. That was nothing that I expected at all. But hey, if it works, it works. Might as well make it happen. Although, it kicks off, we do see early aggression coming out. Crip's going to find the opening frag on the Serenity. I think there's still a bit of lag coming in here as the frag does go down top. Service ticked off. Follows up with yet another onto Sav. So already Malusi Alibi down 2 key operators in terms of stalling out the attack.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, particularly getting Serenity early on in the Malusi, and obviously because they're having to battle with what seems to be a bit of server lag. So, it's a bit unfortunate that she was picked off so early, being so detrimental to the roam. It does mean that the attacking side already has first floor control as they work their way to the middle ground, and we see the remaining of the defensive force having to pretty much hard anchor site to try and combat with the lag. And we have just had confirmation that we will look to get a rehost in due to the lag that you're seeing. It is a bit unfortunate, so we are going to go to a rehost. As we could see there, the lag was pretty much unplayable for the girls. So hopefully when we do a rehost, get everyone back in and see, hopefully service fix, fingers crossed, and they can really get their strats underway. But from what we've seen so far, it's still early days. They played essentially 60 seconds of a round. We can, I guess, unpack a little bit of the strats that we were going to see from the guys. From the girls, obviously, in terms of the operator picks. We did see the Nomad come out, obviously, with the air jabs, big plus on that rotational denial. So using those to counterbalance or counteract any of that Malusi roam and Alibi roam. Obviously, we see them get picked off, which we could probably just put down to a bit of server lag, which is a bit unfortunate. But we rehost, and fingers crossed it all is all fixed once we load back in.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. We see the game plan that has been established here by both teams, so I don't think we're going to see anything too crazy once we do get back into it. I'm a big fan of what we saw brought. I mean, the attack, they're anticipating that deep roam, which most teams, like if you're playing a lot of Consulate, that is what you're going to be gunning for. The Mirror, it's a very hot or cold operator. Either it plays the round phenomenally, hugely impactful, denying that push down white stairs, denying entry into cafeteria, or it gets fragged out. It then becomes a tool for the attackers, and it can undo. It's unfortunately just the reality of an operator like that. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out, whether they stick with the Mirror again going into future rounds. I know there's a couple of other positions on the other bomb sites that it can be played, but again, it's one of those things where it's high risk, not necessarily high risk, it's low risk, high reward, but there are inherent issues that can arise if you misplay the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Mira is definitely, to your point, one of those, in terms of in a position like that, would the attackers be able to utilize it? Should they pop the window or something like that? Probably not late game unless you have someone come down the bottom of a spiral and manage to sneak into that and get behind the shield early on. But it's not a likely instance we see. But to your point, should that be placed anywhere else on particular other sites? CEO is definitely one that, it can be used to the advantage of the attackers to get line of sight in. I'm keen to see how they play it out, particularly Jaeger opting to anchor that round as well, whether that was an issue with lag or whether that was a plan. Classically, you'd see, obviously, Malusi roam makes total sense with the 3-speed, and a Jaeger is another classic operator that you would see either mobile around sort of that top floor hold. And in terms of the attacking push, we did start to see an east side clear up through admin, which would say to me that they're going to essentially do, call it right side, east side, whatever you like, across through to that top CO to make sure that they push all of roamers straight back down into sight and then start to work slowly through the levels. And obviously we saw that because they got those 2 picks early on, that Sledge was able to start to get to work through the server hatches and so on to start to clear out that utility as well. So a very strategized approach in terms of the roam clear. And I think when the girls load back in, they're going to try and rinse and repeat that because I think it could be quite effective. Obviously, all things said and done, the server, working properly. But I think it's going to be quite effective in terms of pushing those roamers back to site, assuming that the girls don't want to contest those positions. And, as we saw, obviously, Malusi getting taken out first was just an unfortunate position to be in. Obviously, not hearing the Nomad pushing through admin at the time and getting an angle onto Billiard stairs. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's still anyone's game. We've seen 30 seconds of a round before anything's really happened. And as we said, these players are no stranger to this map. It is something that they've definitely both had some pretty significant wins on. So, we'll just have to wait and see how those rounds start to unpack.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting thing you're now going to reconsider. So we had a mid-round rehost. Both teams have an idea of what their opponents are bringing here. So we could see, not necessarily an adaptation in operators because due to the rehost, they've got to pick the same stuff, same bomb site, but positioning is going to be interesting seeing it the second time around. So it's that adaptation. If we see the same thing again, might indicate they're a little bit stuck in their ways, which I have noticed has tended to be a trait of ANZ teams. They will traditionally opt for what they know rather than taking the risk, rather than going for something a little bit different here. So there is that chance, but I've seen them play before. We know these girls can adapt on the fly. We've seen it a few times now. This is going to be a very interesting round. It's not going to set the pace at all because obviously it's the first round in an entire best of three, and we've still got to go into the half. We've still got to go into map number 2. We don't know where it's going to end up, but there's already some very, very good signs that we are going to see some highly competitive rounds.
Well, that's exactly your point. We've even got a decider map, parked up our sleeve should things get really heated and the girls take a map each. So obviously Coastline will be our decider later tonight, which, is a map that I thoroughly enjoy. So, I wish both teams all the best, but hey, I would very much love to see some Coastline and these two teams going absolutely head to head on the Ash Jaeger combo rushes and blitz rushes and all those sorts of things. So as I said earlier, it is a very frag heavy map. So I'll try and contain my excitement on that till a bit later on and we start to see a bit of a pattern or some strats starting to emerge from the teams there. And to your point earlier in terms of starting to see how the teams are unpacking the strats, and I think getting that Malusi and Alibi pick relatively early is definitely going to be some big indications to the attacking side as to how they're going to play, in the fact that they're actually going to dedicate to, or theoretically dedicate to operators to that top floor roam. So that's something they're going to have to be aware of when they load back in. Obviously, to your point, they can't therefore change the operators rather the strat, but how they're going to adapt to know, okay, there's at least 2 operators, potentially one's a Malusi and potentially one's an Alibi. So we know we've got 2 very powerful operators. And obviously the MX4 Storm is a very powerful weapon in the right hand. So, how do we bring the utility to combat that? And do we continue with the push that we had, which was to clear East out? Or do we start to change things up and maybe go for we're going to clear out Piano, remove any of that utility blocking a garage and simply just go for a garage push and hope for frags, as opposed to doing a full site clear. So, as said earlier, these girls are super adaptive. They'll like to mix things up. So it'll be interesting to see whether they go, what, we've got a strat. We're going to play it out for the first round because we didn't get a chance for the round just gone. We're going to play this out. We're going to see what happens. And we're going to, work the flow between the two teams and start to iron out patterns and play styles. As we said, these teams have come up against each other before. Unfortunately, Nocturnal were not able to get the best of ShadowNet. And that was on Oregon. So it doesn't look like they've actually come to terms or come to battling each other on this map previously. So, this is fairly fresh territory for both of them. So they're all going to have their own strats and they're both going to be learning and adapting on the fly to how each team sets up sites in their roam game, etc. So, we'll wait and see, I guess.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, with the recent changes, Neon Dawn coming into play, we're seeing this trend of teams getting prepped and in position for those executes far, far earlier into the round. I mean, at the moment, we're seeing the average execute time being anywhere from 40 seconds left in the round to a minute 15 is what I'm seeing at the moment. Globally, there's been that shift of a very much more dynamic, much more explosive style of attack. You can get yourself in position so much earlier, and we are just waiting on the girls to get themselves in the server. We have just made a bit of a shift. We want to make sure that this is the best possible game in the semifinals that we can possibly muster for you guys. There's so much on the line. We know that the girls have been putting in the work here, so they deserve the best shot at getting themselves that grand final spot as well. And look, there's so much you could possibly read into, but it's still all up in the air. Yet again, we were only halfway through that first round. The setup, honestly, on the defense looked rather clean. I think there was a minor miscommunication between Krez and AJ. I think there was a wall that was placed. The reinforcement was the wrong way around for what they wanted to do. But now that they go back to it, they've got that chance to fix it. They can make it work the way they want to. And I'm interested to see, where the now less laggy opening gunfight goes, whether it's going to be as contested. Because I honestly, I believe there was no contest. Trips just walked in straight up, gunned out the Malusi, and there was I don't even know if the Malusi had any idea what was going on with the server the way it was. So these gunfights, I think they're not going to be necessarily as brutal as it was. Okay, so the girls agreed to play it out. Nocturnal have taken round number 1 on the defense, so we'll be going into round number 2 off that and then having that 1 round lead. So that means, basement now locked out. We're going to have to either go console, press lobby, or split bomb site. Archives tell us it has been much more popular in recent weeks. Teams have figured out the strategy, which, I mean, let's be honest, it's just nitro cells galore. It works at the end of the day, so you might as well make an effort to bring it in. ANC teams, not so much, so it still might be something they look to shy away from. I'm anticipating, honestly, probably next bomb site will be press lobby.
Yeah, I'm keen to see this as well. And, we were talking prior to stream in terms of pick rate for a site like this. Press Lobby is definitely a site that's making return, particularly in the ANZ region. Everyone would think when you're sitting at home playing your ranked game, CEO up right at the top would make so much more sense. But Press Lobby, opens up a lot more verticality, and particularly on the roam game, as we saw a number of operators, dedicated to that top floor clear. So you need to be confident in your teammates to be able to essentially run around the map to make sure that there's no verticality being played. And I guess in terms of holds, the top floor hold is absolutely critical, making sure those hatch, above lobby is completely sealed off, and they've got an operator dedicated to that verticality, and as well someone making sure that the back of yellow, or even the top of yellow, is completely locked out as well. And we saw that on the previous round, that it looked like that the Jaeger was dedicated to that role, using the ADSs and the barbed wire, the utility that comes with, but holding that yellow door, or that yellow stairwell, just for denial of the attacking force. So I'm keen to see how they play, and assuming that they do bring a Jaeger this round, how they play him out, and whether he's going to be dedicated as an anchor on site again, or whether he's going to be opted for a roam, as you said before. In terms of the roaming pair, someone like a Vigil or a Malusi, does make a lot of sense in this case. But obviously, the girls have their own strats. They're prepared. As you said, obviously, there's a 1 round going away. So we'll see another site come out, which means new strats, new operators. So, kick back, relax, and we'll get ready to hopefully get up and cue some content in just a moment's time.
Yeah, look, hey, I'm still holding out a little bit of hope. I want to see the Kali hot breach. I want to see it come in. I've seen it once in my life. I got to cast the game. It was EU. The guy got inside somehow and found 2 frags with it, and I've never seen it again. It's an operator that, again, it's seen a lot of love recently, especially when you see Thatcher banned out. Largely can fill the same role, especially on a map like Consulate, where there are considerably, those very, very long angles. You can just sit it on the rappel. It makes for a great crossfire. But look, hey, that's me projecting a little bit. I understand that's probably not something that is mainstream in the strategy. We have confirmation. We're ready to send it back in. Round number 2 coming onto your screen in a second, as we will be heading back to Consulate here. Shadownet, they're a round down. Unfortunately, they just couldn't make it work through those server issues. And look at that. It seems we have another sub coming in here. It's Pi on the screen.
Yes, it is. Okay, Time for Pi is now playing into the roster, so ready to rock and roll, and that's Pi on the Sophia as well. So this squad is well equipped, and in terms of operator picks, as opposed to the first round, we saw the Smoke 6 picked out for the Mirror. Obviously, they are opting for the Smoke in this case. Mirror maybe not so effective as opposed to the utility or smoke vapes that the Smoke operator does bring to the table. Pole 6 picked out for the Maestro. Now this for me is one to watch in terms of how they play essentially the bullet hose, what I call the 81 round mag older on the 556. So whether he's dedicated to that lobby hold, or is he going to play the verticality? How is this setup going to look for the girls, and where are they going to place these operators, and how are they going to be anchor? This for me is probably the most exciting thing about coming into something like this. Having watched some of the women's league previously and referencing particularly the Elevate games the other night, is just how different teams approach the sites. Like, they're obviously all the same site, setup variation, and it could be something small. As you see, the Legion, they're opening a rotation hole in the top of yellow. it's just something totally different that you would not, classically see. It's these little tiny variations that between either the difference between the girls winning a round or the girls, not taking a round. So again, we're on the attack now, and we're seeing exactly, it's not quite an operator send, Kali send, but it is an Amaru rush straight up the top through admin. That's driven by Deanna with G8 in hand, SMG11 on the side, just to back up in case. And she's removed Stab with a quick clean spray for top long desk. And it's a full 3 operator commit with both the Nomad and the Zephyr there to back up as well. Unfortunately, Time for Pie is shut down by AJ on the smoke, hiding in meeting room behind the tipped over table with the shields as well. So that does mean the Zephyr utility is cleaned off before the smoke break come out to ensure they deny the push. And Serenity's there to back up AJ as well with the MP5 of the Malusi, cleans itself up a tidy little double and removes Ticked Off and and Crips as well. That's the Nomad and the Ying. Deanna's though, she wants a piece of the action, so she's coming upstairs to frag out and shut down Aussie Princess on the Jaeger, but is unlucky to close out Serenity, securing itself a 3rd kill. It's now all up to Soy. The Sledge, the push from main door. Do I see an SMG11 rush, or are they going to play time on this one?
I mean, realistically, it was a great start to the round, and you were talking about how they're going to approach the bomb site. Really damn quick is the answer that ShadowNet were bringing there. The Gara hook came out rather early on. When they got some big control, unfortunately, they just weren't anticipating this vertical hold, which really, it has become the meta for this bomb site. You go upstairs, you hold the verticality, you make it just impossible to get real control over the bomb site, and that's how it played out. Nocturnal, they've got a great hold on this so far. Soy, in a 1v3, Serenity somehow, being as low as she was, still got that 3rd kill for the triple. Might even find a quad if Soy gets caught unawares. On the console repel, it's a minute left in play, and it's a 1v3. There's so much time left in the clock. Neon Dawn changes accelerated the game so much that this is what we are seeing more and more often. You're getting down to the last minute of the round. There's only 4 players left in the server, and it's a 1-3 split. And you can just see all that utility in the defense. Will have to give away the position and shooting out those ADSs, but there's no chance. The goo mines are there, the barbed wire, the diffuser's on the ground. Will she be able to see anything? No. AJ swings out, M590 to the head. Soy goes down. Nocturnal, they get themselves a 2nd in a row.
Yeah, that's super unfortunate. And to your point, 1v3 situation, there's not much that, AJ's going to be able to do there, apart from maybe take an inverted comma tactical timeout, maybe feed back to the guys, hey, this is what went wrong, this is what we should do here, and maybe this is how we approach it next time. I can promise you, I don't think they expected the Malusi send straight up the top of office, but hey, it worked, it paid off, so, GG's and well played to the girls. That was, as far as I'm concerned, that was awesome to watch. That round was over so quickly, it was well played.
Yeah, I'm always a fan of the Amaru when she makes her way, and it's going to be interesting to see if console office does come into play. It was that EU strat that was brought in by, if I remember correctly, it was Verse Pro or Team Empire. You come up through the hatch from below and go for the plant that way. So there's still potential that we do see her come out once again. But it's going to be the split bomb site for round number 3. Archives tell us they're going to be bringing a pulse. They're going to be going for a vertical hold with the mirror as well. This is a scary defensive one.
Yeah, particularly with that pulse, to your point, having that heartbeat sensor, you would expect to see pulse dedicated downstairs, obviously playing verticality straight into colors. A number of C4s in pocket, you can count them with me. 1, 2, 3 C4s, plus some frag grenades as well, brought by the Vigil, assuming Serenity doesn't use them for rotates, which she's done exactly that. Nevertheless, 3 C4s in pocket to deny what one would assume would be a Teller plant. So a very formidable force. You do see, though, in the attacking lineup, they have decided to stick with the Ying, so this may prove game-changing, particularly late round. So whilst it's great the pulse is there to be able to scan those heartbeat sensors out, when they're completely blind...
This is M1014 pulse. This is shotgun pulse. Someone is jumping out a window. I can't say who will win the gunfight, but that is happening here. There's another player in the ANZ region, goes by MT Jax. He is notorious for playing nothing but shotgun pulse in the defense. So we'll see if Sav can channel some of her inner MT Jax and make it happen. It is a terrifying force to behold. And Yeah, like you said, with the Nitro cells on board, I have a name for this strategy. I call it the call center from hell, because that is not a phone call you want to be answering. It's going to be rough. There's an even in more evolved form, which it's 4 Nitro cells on the board. I like to refer to it as hell in the Nitro cell, because you are going to be feeling the pain. There's very little you can do to escape. See just how well those Nitros translate into frags, because, you know, it's just such a powerful tool when a pulse is on the board.
Particularly with the pulse and shotgun as well, so they, you know, late round they can decide to completely open up the telecite if they haven't already, to get full verticality, and then they don't even need the heartbeat sensor, they can just rely on visual aid. But, you know, can I just do a quick shout out to that epic M1014 gun skin as part of the battle pass? Like, holy moly, I would love to see more weaponry remodeled in skin shapes like that, because that is out of control, and I'm playing the Commando on Mozzie so much more because I have a really cool skin to go with it. So, you know, that's a fun fact for the side note there.
Sure. Okay. A bit of a mistake coming through. A bit of a team kill. Hey, look, it wouldn't be ANZ Rainbow Six Siege if there wasn't a team kill involved, but the kill feed's lining up. Both teams lose 2. We're down to a 3 versus 3 with a minute 15 left on the clock. Sav is going to be do or die here with that M1014 as they lose AJ as well. 2 Nitro cells, 1 shotgun and 1 SMG. That cardiac sensor is going to have to pay out here, especially given that, you know, the Sledge is still available, still has those frags. There's a lot of flashes, smokes as well. There's a lot of utility that could make this hold very hard.
Yeah, and, you know, classic ANZ region, you know, when the frags start coming out, they happen very quickly and over a very short amount of time. You saw effectively almost both teams wipe down to half their forces in the space of about 11 seconds. So, you know, when these girls get a lock on where everyone's playing, they push, and they push very hard to shut that down. You can see the cardiac sensor getting the pulse onto someone above. I believe that's the Ace or the Sledge on that top flight. So the question is the C4 is going to come out. They're going to wait. They're going to hold angle. I think they're hearing footsteps or a drone. They're not entirely sure. Can they get that shotgun put to work and start to close out some frags? They know it's a 3v2 situation. 14 seconds left on the clock. They need to start to commit to either get that plant down or push the frags, as the decisions are starting to come out as to how to play this. They are fully aware there is a pulse watching them from somewhere. They have to be careful on how they approach the plant. You see, going it now, the pulse come out, C4 gets prepped and ready, and there it goes, and that's the round going to Nocturnal, shutting out Diana with a cheeky C4 from below from the pulse.
Yeah, that's the power of the pulse on this bomb site, and Soy, all he could do was watch could do was watch. Yeah, it's a Sledge. It's a go-to reaction, but no, Soy, had to watch as the time ticked away, and it's a flawless bomb site rotation so far here from Nocturnal. They're looking comfortable on Consulate. Can they repeat it again, Dark? That is the question. And look at that. Pi brings in the IQ, the respect pick, making its way through. They understand the very, very real risk of that Nitro cell play.
Particularly, and you know what, full credit to the Pulse for playing that as passive as she did, or as he did, operator or the player. You know, if she had to pull the C4 early when she thought, hey, I think the Sledge is going to sit here for a second, I'm going to throw that down now, and missed, then that could have essentially cost them the round. But playing right out for time and allowing you know, that time to bleed out to essentially the last 3 or 4 seconds on the clock, which meant that, you know, the zinc fuse being it's a couple of seconds long to stick that plant, they could take their time, pinpoint exactly where they were, casually throw CF4 up and cross that out. So, you know, operating in that, under that amount of pressure, you know, very well played by the Pulse. And you know, one team's got to win, and certainly not citing it, but it was very well played and GG to the team.
Well, we head into round number 4, action phase, almost making its way in. We see that the Warden's coming through again. Interesting setup though on the defense, no breach style, which it's a trend that has been coming through more often than that. You just wait for them to be on the site, you can test once they're fighting, because that is a player that is incapacitated. And they just take the post breach gunfights. At the moment, though, it's looking largely the same from what we saw that first 30 seconds of the open round. Crypt will be heading to admin. They've got the mirror set up properly this time down in the basement. The communication was there this time. I think it was mostly AJ saying, Krez, just go somewhere else. Go on the roam. I'll deal with the reinforcements here. I don't need your help. Because last time it went horribly wrong. But this time, again, it's a change that has been made. We saw Crips getting in early, looking for those gunfights. It's a much more delayed, much more patient setup now for this attack of ShadowNet.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, this is the lineup that we saw the very first 30 seconds, and I think it's going to pan out very differently now that Nocturnal have had a chance to cycle through some of the strats at different sites. So I don't think ShadowNet are going to be expecting how this is going to play played out. Obviously, Serenity is droned and a very smart wide move to get away from the side as quickly as possible and not try to anchor that, because she wouldn't have been able to burn any more time. The two operators dedicated to that games room push. So if she had stayed around, simply would have lost a life. And when I say two, I actually mean it's a full 5 operator send from east side, so it's a total top 4 clear. As you see some shots come out from ticked off right down to the bottom of service stairs, and the Melusi of Serenity is absolutely everywhere and anywhere, as any good roamer should be, just burning time and enough to make them aware that, hey, we need to be careful because someone's playing around us. If we let our guard down for a second, then we're going to be either copping some grenades to the face or an MP5 to the back of the head. So as far as her roam game is concerned, she's doing a strong enough presence to burn that time. We see Crips getting control of lobby as well, so they know that they're pretty comfortable on their top floor clear. Unfortunate timing, but it was even more unfortunate timing from AJ. Sav shutting down the Nomad, but the team 4 eventually break down. Super unfortunate after Sav managing to beat that 1v1 on the Nomad, and she'll have to go back onto cam duty because she copped a friendly C4 to the face, which you never know.
No, look, we all know what was going on there. Women's League, it's a competitive environment. AJ wanted the kill, and unfortunately, Sav was in the way. Ticked up and Soy, though. They'll find Serenity and AJ, so no chance for redemption there for AJ, but Aussie Princess just contesting aggressively from White Stairs. Finds a spray down on the Soy. It's a 2-lady hold here, and unfortunately, they don't have the greatest of positional advantages. A lot of potential from above being set up by ShadowNet. They've got the vertical control. They've got a lot of utility. Unfortunately, not a huge number of drones available to them, but it's going to come down to the gunfights. We've seen this Nocturnal roster be able to clutch it out in some of these situations. Can they do it again? Crescent finds the kill onto TikTok, brings it back to a 2 versus 2 count at the end of the day. Pie swings into basement, but can't find the player deep behind White Van. Will be put on the ground, and all of a sudden, it's looking good here for Nocturnal. They play the clock. They get the round 4 in a row.
Super smart from the defending team to play that and not get overly aggressive and start to rush the remaining operators. They knew the time they had to work with, and they simply needed to hold for a sheer matter of seconds to bring that round up for clutch. So, to Aussie Princess, a very smart strategy on how she played that out. Rather than going, hey guys, I'm going to pad my stats, see if I can get a couple of peaks and some kills. She goes, you know what? I'm going to listen to my team. I'm going to play time because they can't get me from the position I'm holding from front of White Van, and clutch the round out. And that's exactly what we saw there. So, refreshing to what we saw in the first 30 seconds to commentary we made earlier around how are they going to play the Jaeger on that Cafe Garage site? Well, Jaeger's going to anchor and clutch. It's as simple as that. So, well played to Aussie Princess. Phenomenal round from the Nocturnal girls.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's one of those realities that you need to face off against when you're an attacker. The 6th defender that is always and ever present unless the diffuser goes down. Time management is key in Rainbow Six Siege. And as we head into round number 5, we're going to see that history repeating itself yet again. We're going to be going to press lobby, as we did in round number 2. And that was the first official round we saw on stream. It was Nocturnal taking it quite convincingly, despite despite the Armoru send that we saw earlier. Diana, unfortunately, is not going to be bringing the Armoru this time. It's going to be an 8 instead. So they're prioritizing a little bit more of the utility game rather than that surprise factor. But at the moment, Nocturnal, they're on an absolute tear.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good adaptation to not continually rinse and repeat the same strat. It's one of those things with Siege, particularly at the level the girls are playing. If you do something once, they're going to adapt pretty quickly to trying to get away with the same thing twice. And, we see that with the defensive side as well, opting to bring the Legion and the Maestro and not sticking to the same defensive lineup they had on the previous round. It's a good adaptation and keeping things mixed up so that neither team knows what to expect. You see Crips get a nice early pick, and that is the looting on the roam off the board, unfortunately, or at least attempting a roam potentially. She was holding him down. It looks like the sprays have come out, and she's been removed now for all that utility. Obviously, the Rob Bob's down, but the C4s, the grenades short in pocket, are no longer able to be used. You see a very aggressive piano hold, Pink brother into sight. They've got the bathroom on lock, and Soy shut down Crescent. This is a very good start to the round for ShadowNet. In less than 60 seconds, they've managed to get 2 early picks due to the aggressiveness, I guess, of how they're playing, with a full stack of 5, looking very pretty on health at the moment. They are fully aware, though, there's potentially someone sitting above, so Ticked Off is on the duty of making sure that there is no run out from the top of that window. We see Aussie Princess playing this very smart. Couple of cheeky holes onto the bottom of the piano. Oh, and there it is, down onto Soy. Very unfortunate on the rappel there, and that's Sledge off the board. Another gun, an SMG-11 that will not be able to be used this round, and that brings the scoreline down to a 4v3 with a minute 26 left on the clock, and the top 4 hold still perfectly intact. Doesn't look like the attacking team is committing any resources to trying to clear that out, and they're focusing on that aggressiveness push to try and get some picks down below to clear out sites. So another quick spray from that SMG-11 up the top immediately room, taking Ticked Off down to about half health, and up comes the severe lifeline charges. That's done some damage to AJ, but not enough to finish that off. Sav capitalizes on Deanna, and the trades start to come up onto the board. Time for Pi, picking up Aussie Princess. It gets refragged out for Sav on time for Pi, so that's a nice little double kill for Sav on the Legion. Crip's trying to stick the defuse, not being contested as Sav tries to go for the swing, and on the rappel out, super unfortunate. That's the Legion shut down. It's 2v1. It is all up to AJ to essentially clutch the 1v1 as the Nomad is knocked out and outside the building. 1v1 post-plant situation with 30 seconds left on the clock. It's probably the closest the girls have been, and there it is right there. The swing from the smoke. Fantastically played, a super aggressive swing. They're just going to simply leave Nomad chilling outside, catching some sun as AJ diffuses that and takes ShadowNet's first round.
Unfortunate. Doesn't even begin to cover it at the end of the day. It was close. That was the best shot that ShadowNet have had so far of getting themselves on the board, and unfortunately AJ was the one thing standing in their way, and she was not easing up on that trigger at all. 5 rounds in a row. 5 very, very convincing rounds in a row here for this Nocturnal roster so far, and it is going to be that repeat rotation down to split. Archives Tellers coming in once again. The last time they were there, it was that time when they initially got. They played it very, very well. The clock came in clutch for them, and we see the pulse coming out yet again.
Yeah, and to your point, we're talking fractions of a second in terms of ShadowNet managing to clutch out a round. So super unfortunate that the 1v1 was unable to be closed off, and we do see Nocturnal looking very comfortable at the moment and potentially staring down the barrel of a 6-0 at the half spot. So, depending on the play style, some may argue that this is a defender-sided map, and some may argue this is an attacker-sided map. So, when we do pitch up the rotation, very keen to see how ShadowNet start to make up some of that lost ground, and maybe even turn it on its head, because when it comes to clicks, we can see that ShadowNet know exactly what to do and how to execute. Just been unfortunate on the clock timing and some very late 1v1s under pressure. So, this can all change in a matter of a couple of rounds. It's certainly not discounting the efforts that ShadowNet have put in so far. At the point, the number of C4s, they're playing down below, they've bought the pulse, we've got the Sab, we've got the shotgun strat once again, they know this works. Keen to see how this plays out. Will it play for time with a late C4 as they're going for plan, or will they push in and get a little bit more aggressive and try to get that bottom clear out and remove those operators that are anchoring up underneath? And so you can see that with the Sledge. She's going, you know what, I know exactly what the plan is. I am going to full shift W straight through garage and make sure any of that verticality that you've dedicated is removed. Less than a minute has gone. We've already seen some frags. That's AJ and Deanna making a trade on each other. That's the Mozzie and the Habana removed off the board. The hard breach utility is now gone, as well as that Mozzie C4. That's one C4 down. That's another one, and that's the pulse. That's a huge hit from Soy down the bottom of Spiral Stairs. So that has removed that cardiac sensor and will give them a very safe plant should they decide to push Teleside now, because there's no more of that intel gathering that the pulse brings to the floor. Aussie Princess decides to get in on the action as well and remove Soy. So that is the sledge. Obviously, Soy was only a couple of HP, so if the wind changed direction, that would have removed the sledge. Serenity going for another kill. That's a Vigil on the roam, proving the worth right there. And Zofia, driven by ticked off shutdown. 2 versus 3, never mind. It's a 2v2 because Time for Fire saying it's time for Serenity to be removed. We're now into a 2v2 situation with a minute 32 left on the clock. Once again, ShadowNet looking very good this round, and potentially this could be the round that they take out and get at least one on the board against Nocturnal.
Unfortunately, for the rest of the remaining players on ShadowNet, one of those operators and one of those players on Nocturnal left alive is Aussie Princess, who has been pretty stalwart in her approach to the game so far. 4-1-3 has been fragging very, very well. In fact, last time this bomb side made an appearance, it was her and her performance which enabled them to win on the clock. Wasn't over-eager, wasn't keen to go in aggressively for the gunfight. At the moment, Crips is going to be pushing into Visa, trying to hunt out anyone in the vicinity. Will they spot the player over by service? They see the rotate and hold. Will they spot the player? No! Crips has to win it on the gunfight alone. Aussie Princess is there. Tagged up heavy, will retreat back up onto the second floor. So it's time being wasted here by Nocturnal. Aussie just playing the clock. Has been scouted by the Jackal scanner, so we'll just retreat for now. Plant coming down here. There is still a Nitro Cell on the board, but Crescent isn't in position to try and capitalize. The floor is open, might be able to throw it deep enough. Holding off the defuse does go down. The Nitro Cell wasn't committed. It was onto the bars. It is a bit finicky. I hit myself a little bit, no, unfortunately, it doesn't matter. Aussie Princess does it alone. Triple kill of the round. And it is going to be a flawless half going the way of Nocturnal. I was going to say, I've done that myself and accidentally hit the G button and died anyway. But at least, Nocturnal has the wherewithal not to do that.
That coming down the last seconds, and I just said that was the best attempt that we've seen of ShadowNet to take out a round. But Aussie Princess, to your point, we know she can frag, and she just goes, you know what? I know exactly what the strat is, so I'm going to get up in there and get in their faces, and gets an absolute massive double to clutch out the round with, as you said, it's very finicky, those bars. So, full credit to the Mirror for trying it. I've been definitely one of those players to either see more for myself or a team member, or leave it stuck on the roof with the inability to get it down. And, it's just one of those things. It's a very tight spot, particularly in the pressure that the Mirror was in that instance where, she has to react, and it's all coming down to one throw, with a tiny slot like that. So, full credit to girls for giving it a valiant effort. But there you go, Aussie Princess clutches it out, and we go 6-0 at the half. Let's see what ShadowNet can give us on the attack.
Well, they're going to be heading over the defense. They're going to be hitting the console office, which is not something that we've seen up until this point. It's console meeting for the first time. I've been in a situation myself. I've casted a few situations where you throw the Nitro Cell up, there's no way to get it. There's nothing sadder than a Valkyrie having to use the Deagle to shoot the roof around the Nitro Cell just to get it back. And there's nothing sadder than being killed in the process of doing that. So, at least, Crescent didn't find herself in that situation. The interesting thing, though, we're coming into round number 7, flawless half from Nocturnal. I'm interested to see what Diana's plan is. She brought out the armor previously. This is a Rook on Consulate. This screams some sort of spawn peak.
Like this, as soon as I saw the Rook, I thought, yep, MP5, 2X, there's a spawn peak coming from somewhere on this map. Just simply the question is where? Is it going to be at the back of admin? Is it going to be out of CEO? Is it going to be out of connector? There's so many options to put that 2X to work on that MP5, and it just depends on how Deanna wants to play it, or if she's just going to simply anchor on site and just wanted the utility to beef up the remaining force in the defensive side. We do see the Goyo make the appearance for the first time tonight, so very keen to see what Crips can do with that. We do see Ticked Off anchoring quite heavily in admin, so they are aware that there's going to be some level of east side clear, and the thing is that Nocturnal are not committing anything to a bottom floor clear. They're just going to pull east side, send it, and start to push those operators back to site. So the aggressiveness of Ticked Off to be able to not be dislodged by the incoming utility may lead to some frags, but no, it doesn't, unfortunately, and AJ gets a very solid tap down onto the Jaeger. They're going into this round in a 4v5, which is an unfortunate start, and Potentially, there it is. That's the refract from the Wumai. Phenomenal shot with the MP5K with 1.5x. Another aggressive peek back into admin. Soy does take a huge amount of damage, though, so he's going to have to do the remainder of the round with less than half HP. So a couple of bullets to his shoulder, and he's going to be removed. The Wumai magnets are in pocket. There's plenty of utility still on the board. Obviously, time for Pi on that Malusi roam with the C4 handy, just in case things get a little bit heated late on. Have operating the Twitch, getting those Twitch drones out, making sure that they can identify exactly where those operators are hiding and potentially shut down any utility he comes across on the drive across the map as well. I'd like to see Aussie Princess rather on the Nomad, making sure they've got that rotational deniability, and to the point of Aussie having an absolute cracking game tonight. 6-1-3 is a pretty impressive scoreline considering the level of play that we're obviously playing against. As we mentioned earlier, this is the semi-final, so only one team can go through the grand final, and it's just a question of who's it going to be. Nocturnal looking in pretty good position right now.
Crescent trying to open up the wall into meeting. The X-Guards were shot at, so you could sense the disapproval and that being denied. So the question is, how do they make it happen this time around? They need to find the angle on the play towards the reception there, towards console. Try and stop it from happening again. But you look at the players just poised, waiting. ShadowNet, they want to bounce and they want to cut down these Nocturnal players. The Goya, it's going to be an interesting one. It's again one of those operators that can be very hit or miss. The Vulcan shields are great on the defense, but can be also very, very crippling. The X-Guards this time around will go off. Not the cleanest, but hey, it's a line of sight. Diana comes down Aussie Princess with the refrag immediately there. President finds one, Sav finds a second. Crip hits the dirt, and all of a sudden, it's man count back the way of the Nocturnal. Woman count back the way of Nocturnal. Pi and Soy locked down in the bomb site. Nitro equipped and ready. Soy finds AJ. So it's back to a 2 versus 2, but it's a post-plant situation. Nocturnal now have the edge, that block advantage. Swinging in, Pi can't quite get the frag onto Sav. And unfortunately for Sav, she can't get the kill onto Soy. Soy having a great show and a quad! ShadowNet will get themselves on the board finally! Off the back of some huge plays from Soy on the Wamai. Defuse to come out, and what a quad!
Absolutely out of control. Soy just goes from 10 to 11, says, don't worry, girls, I've got this. Give me some space, and rips a 4K out of absolutely nowhere, contesting everyone that dare peeked into her line of fire. A phenomenal play and an ability to win those 1v1s. As I said earlier, though, that Malusi with the C4 late game was critical, very close to removing that attacking side post-plant. So obviously it came down to a positional thing, but having that utility there ready and able can be game-changing in those sort of situations. But Soy, holy moly, out of absolutely nowhere, shuts down almost the entire attacking team with less than half HP for almost 90% of the round.
Big frags, big finds, and Soy goes absolutely huge for the team. They finally get themselves on the board. Unfortunately, they've now got to win the next 5 while facing up against Map Point. Luckily for them, they're on the defense, so they can look to do a bit of work. Rely on the clock, and Basement coming out, Crips on the mirror once again, making sure. This time around, though, we see the utility denial. No breach is going to be freely given here, as the Bandit will be on the board, trying to slow down that inevitable march that will be coming the way of Nocturnal. Interesting, though, we have seen some flies. It's not every day that you see the Jaeger player for the defense go onto the Nomad that roams out. It's a bit of a swing, but Aussie really is making it work.
Absolutely. She just seems to be the Swiss Army knife of players in terms of operator choices, whether it be a Jaeger, whether it be a Nomad, two very different style of operators, one being somewhat of a support, making sure that the team on the push is covered from behind, as opposed to the Jaeger, who's more on the front lines, making sure that either the roam or the anchor is clear from that opposing forces coming down their way. So two very different roles, and she's adapting exceptionally well and managing to, do both of them exceptionally well. But yeah, again, again, I'm sitting back here, just deep breathing, watching Soy in that 4K. Just an absolutely impressive round from her. So very keen to see how the remainder of this plays out. And, to the point earlier when we was talking about Nocturnal going into this in a 6-0 and, whether this is an attacker side, defender side, depending on your own personal take. But, ShadowNet are off to a great start. They've got a long road to climb, but it is doable. We can't discredit them. Yes, it's a very tough position to be in. They essentially need 5 rounds in a row. But, Nocturnal did it before. There's nothing to say ShadowNet can't do it. And Soy kicking them off in the very right direction to start things off. That's got to be a massive motivational boost coming into essentially a 6-1 at the half.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the scoreline, hearing that it was a 6-0 half, you'd think that it was an absolute blowout, but a lot of these rounds have been so incredibly close, and it's just been Nocturnal at the end of the day that was able to push it over the finish line, utilizing that clock more often than not. ShadowNet, they've got the capabilities. They've well and truly proved that they already have contested quite heavily into this round. AJ low, Serenity tag as well, and the only real cost was Diana, who's sitting just above half. Definitely a matter of situation for a Vigil at the end of the day. As we head into the second half of the round, AJ will be starting to open up some of those vertical angles, but it's Serenity to finish off the Vigil. Punish her, for that early aggression. Gets the Vigil off the board. That Roma not nearly as effective now that she is relegated to cams. And there's still the tools that Nocturnal need to get themselves on the bomb site, but can they get that vertical control on the first floor to enable that breach?
Yeah, it's one of those things, watching Nocturnal in their play style is how they commit to a push. And we saw that last round once they cleared out, the game room, is it was a full 3 operator send onto site. It wasn't a 1, it wasn't, hey, 1 on backup. It was no, go, 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 go. So when it comes to the push, they are super aggressive. We see the Bandit unfortunately shut down the back of white van, exposing obviously a little bit too much of the face there and getting a nice little cheeky headshot. That's AJ on the sledge from up and above. Funnily enough, not from the front garage, but from playing those vertical angles with the Bandit not aware what just happened. Sav on the Twitch shutting down time for Pi, and the retrades come out. That's Crips on the mirror shutting down the Twitch. So 3 frags come out, but it is now a 1v4. We are going to a plant as well. It's not looking very good. Soy, if there's any time you want to clutch up, there it is. That's 1. Only 3 more to go. The Nomad air jabs come out. Aussie Princess was ready and shuts down the round, and that's a very big GH, a valiant effort by ShadowNet. Unfortunately, Nocturnal just coming out on top for that.
Yeah, just the right place to air jab, shuts down Soy in the clutch hopes for her there. Unfortunately, because, look, she'd done it in the previous round, wasn't out of the realms of possibility that she could have done it again. And Sav, largely the unsung hero of the team. We didn't spend too much time talking about her, but very much in the thick of things, very much involved in a lot of those frags. Nocturnal will take a 1-0 series lead here before we head into Cafe. So, what we're going to do, we will start to a quick break. We'll be back very, very soon on map number 2 in Dark. With that played out, I'm excited for map number 2.
I cannot wait for Cafe. We're going 7-1 in the half. Is this a ShadowNet's map? Will they turn it back on their head and absolutely give it to Nocturnal? I guess we'll just have to kick back and wait and see. If there's anyone who's no stranger to it, is Soy on that one. Poised and ready to be able to clutch that out. It's just unfortunate timing with the air jab and obviously the placement of it, because Aussie Princess, as we said, Swiss Army knight of operators and how to drive them is proving, a real, thorn in ShadowNet's side. So, massive GGs, but definitely Soy, one to keep an eye on. She's here to frag, and she's no stranger to it. So Cafe is going to be a very interesting map, and I know I'll be reclining once it kicks off in just a few short moments. So with that, we'll be a very short ad, and we'll be back after this.
My gate stands like a star in the darkness, a burning light that keeps enemies at bay. Can you take the heat?
Get elite real-world performance for your desktop PC with 10th Gen Intel Core processors. If you're looking to game, create, live stream, or stay productive, 10th Gen Intel Core processors deliver an optimal balance of frequency, cores, and threads to handle real-world usages. Get enthusiast-level performance with an Intel Core i9 processor, up to 5.3 GHz clock speed for peak gaming performance and content creation workloads. Or for competitive gameplay and content creation, choose an Intel Core i7 with up to 5.1 GHz clock speed to handle your demanding applications. The Intel Core i5 processor with up to 4.8 GHz gives you a seamless AAA gaming and entertainment experience. And with up to 4.6 GHz clock speed, the Intel Core i3 is a great fit for everyday tasks and productivity. If you're looking to push your system even further, get additional performance headroom with unlocked 10th Gen Intel Core processors, supported by Intel's advanced overclocking controls. Bring elite, real-world performance to your desktop PC with 10th Gen Intel Core processors.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming back into the second semi-final of the XP Women's League. I'm Blue Panda, joining me is Dark. Dark, we just saw a phenomenal map one coming out of Nocturnal, 6-0 in the first half. They only needed the one round to close it out. Unfortunately, they lost the first round and then won the second round of the second half, so they closed it out 7-1 in the end. But both teams have shown a lot of potential, and going into map number 2, there's any number of possibilities.
Absolutely. And, you know, when we talk about the second map being Cafe, which we'll come to in just a second, but looking at the way the rounds played out and the aggressiveness from, you know, Nocturnal and how they handled those rounds is, you know, full, shout out to all the girls, you know, Serenity, 3K, Soy, 4K. These girls are here to absolutely game. We saw a number of rounds going down to those remaining seconds. And I referenced, you know, the Teller Archives hold with, as you famously said, the call center from hell. Phenomenal call, which I have noted down in my notepad of ideas. But we saw that play out, and it came down to the last few seconds. And I believe it was Aussie Princess at the time on the pulse, but whoever it was, just simply playing time to the right last second, going, yep, you've only got 3 seconds to put that plant down. I know you're going to run over, so I'm just going to play time. Boom, clean that round up. And as we said, we saw it go, you know, 6-0 at the half. Soy turned turned it on though. We can't discredit, as I mentioned, a 4K on the My, managing to clean up and give ShadowNet at least a 1-round win, and they're coming into that half. But Nocturnal just appeared to be ready to game a little bit more and pulled in that 7-1. So Cafe is the second map. Will we see a bit of a change up in terms of how the scoreline maps out? We obviously still have Coastline as our pocket map should ShadowNet manage to get and close off this map. So still plenty of content to go, plenty of strats to see out. This is a game, or this is a map rather, that I'm very keen to see how these players structure their pushes, because this map is so dependent on verticality and how the operators play their roles. We'll see what happens, but Nocturnal, very aggressive start and a very demanding win over ShadowNet so far.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. ShadowNet will be starting off on the defense. The players are in the lobbies, ready to go. We'll be chucking it up on your screen to get into those operator bans in a second. But we saw a very, very defender-sided Consulate. Could we see the same thing here on Cafe? And given that ShadowNet are on the defense to start things off, could we see that map 3 coming through?
Yeah, absolutely. When we reverse, I guess, to bans on the first map, we saw a Thatcher, Velk, Blackbeard, and a Clash. Now, obviously, Thatcher on a map like this can prove quite useful in terms of the utility that he brings. So, will we see similar bans, or will they mix it up entirely and shut down someone else, potentially a Malusi, who worked so well for Nocturnal? And no, they're going to stick with the old trust and true Thatcher friend. Maybe one day you will see a game in this game, but unfortunately, it's not tonight. And we move across to Nocturnal's banning phase. So I'm keen to see it. Mirror was an operator that was not banned on Consulate, which is interesting because it's normally one that you do see. Was only played a number of times, and I don't think that Mirror made a detriment to the round. Interestingly enough, a Capital ban comes out. That's not something that you see regularly. So very keen to understand the strats here. Obviously, he does bring the smoke and fire arrow utility alongside some very powerful weaponry, and there's the Mirror ban that we didn't see on the first map. We see it on the second map instead. So, I normally have a thing where I try and call the bans and who we're going to see, and I can promise you Capital is not one that I thought I would see tonight.
Well, unfortunately, I, on the other hand, it would have pegged that one for sure. Capital is an operator that has proven incredibly strong, especially having been given that secondary hard breach gadget, can fill sort of that tertiary secondary hard breach role. Malusi, though, is going to be the one to round it out. The Banshees not making their way through, which is interesting. We see where my let in, which is one of the strongest picks, especially up on that third floor when the pixel hold. Yes, he doesn't have the shield anymore, but that's easily remedied. You just pick one of those other operators that does currently run it. Valkyrie being one of them, which has been let through this time around. The black eye camera is so key in a lot of these defensive holds. This is an interesting setup, though. You see the Mute, you see the Whammer, you see the Valkyrie, the Maestro. This is probably going to be a vertical hold. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they set themselves up in Cocktail, lockout, backstock. I'm surprised they do 6-pick off the castle. What you see a lot of teams doing is you chuck your castle barricade on reading, deny that rush. But Goyo is another operator that fits very, very cleanly into this lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. And I question, obviously Malusi is quite a powerful operator for the roam game that she enables, and the deniability of the sound cues that the Wob brings along. I wonder if that was a little bit of a targeted ban, because we did see Nocturnal bring Malusi in a number of rounds that was driven by Wendy most of it, and she was quite a demanding force behind the wheel of Malusi. So I wonder if this is also a little bit of an adaptation from ShadowNet. You know what, we don't want to have to deal with that, so we're just going to simply remove it in case Sereni does get behind the wheel, but it's something that the Shadow Channel wants to remove the game.
Yeah, and this is exactly what we were expecting coming to this. The vertical hold, you chuck the Goyo upstairs with the Vulcan shield. Reading room fireplace is such a hard bomb site to hold on the actual floor itself. You're very much going to struggle, especially if your opponents get that vertical control, get upstairs to Cocktail, start opening the floor with a sledge. You're not going to succeed. So what teams have started to do, you hold up on Cocktail, you deny that verticality as long as possible, you pull back once they are starting to pressure on your position, and then you can go for those frags. So exactly what we're seeing out of ShadowNet here. On the other side of things, Nocturnal will get themselves upstairs, start to open up these hatches, start to play that information game, and already there is a lot of information to be gained with these drones.
Yeah, absolutely. We see AJ starting to work the top of Red Hat alongside with Zofia as well, making sure to clear out any of those pesky roamers who might be hanging around, Red Set Scan or even New Hat. And we see the pre-fire come out. Unfortunately, ticked off is just a little bit quicker to the trigger, and that's proven completely incorrect. And Sophia is also quick on the trigger as well, and that's quickly refragged out. So that's AJ for ticked off. We're now in 4v4 as the top floor roam continues. The live drones come out. Serenity gets prepped and ready to push down the back of White Stairs. The soft yellow pings come out. I don't know if they're still aware that there is a defender holding across the long bar as they're thinking that, hey, something's happening. Is there some belt cams that we sort of saw? I'm not too sure. In intel, they've got to shut down any of those defaults as well. But it sounds like Serenity's prepped and ready. She's hearing some things coming out from the other side of the top of long bar. So she's going to need to get a little bit aggressive here and start that roam clear as she is being backed up with what looks to be a drone as well, spotting out all of that utility. Unfortunate timing by Crips, or by Serenity rather, because Crips removes that pushing force of the Sophia, and that's the Goyo getting put to good work there. Boy, super aggressive angle over in Cocktail as well, peeking onto Longbar, and stay behind the shield, using the shield to the full advantage. Stab, however, getting the better and shutting down Toy. So that should be that top 4 control that the girls have been looking for, and they're looking pretty good. 3v3 in terms of the team count, with only Sav taking a small amount of damage on the Twitch. They're now going to need to start on that on that vertical game and get an eye on exactly where those defenders are holding sight.
The unfortunate thing is, though, Sledge and Zofia off the board, so they've got no real vertical threat. They've got to force their way through those fatal funnels, in through the doorways, into the bottom site, true, and get that defuse down. So this is a very dire situation for Nocturnal to find themselves in. There are a few angles that have been opened up with the shotguns, with those Vulcan shields as well. You see Aussie drops down the pillars. They're going to have to go the conventional route and try and force their way in through the door with no vertical control whatsoever. Present is the first victim, straight in, gets dropped by Pi, who's looking for more, but it's Trips to follow. Dev has a double, though, is looking for some big frags. Low health. Shadownet, they've got the clock in favour. They win the round, they win the opener on Cafe, and unfortunately, the vertical pressure that was lost as soon as Zofia and Sledge hit the dirt, there was, honestly, I think that the odds of that round going to Nocturnal were so infinitesimally low. I think the only reason it came that close is Sav is just such a good gunner.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we saw this play out a number of times on the first map, is just the ability to run the clock down. And we're seeing that carry over to Cafe as well. So I'm starting to notice some consistency from the teams. And when it comes to that late game send, I guess, for them, that they're potentially not mindful of the time, and it's just becoming to those positions, as you said, obviously no verticality operators. It's a tough pinch for them to be in, is they simply have to commit frags with whatever time is left on the clock, so it almost becomes the full send moment, and they have to rely on their gun skill and their game awareness to clutch that out. We do see come out for the first time tonight. Shadownet are off to a good start, so it is a round in their favour. We did obviously see Nocturnal prove quite powerful on the previous map, so maybe this is hinting at something. Maybe we'll see Shadownet flip the tables entirely and go a 6-0 on Nocturnal in favour after we saw that happen on the very first mapping.
Well, it's going to be interesting, given that if that was the result, if Shadownet win this one, both teams have then traded their opponent's map picks. Shadownet, they were the ones that picked Conceal, unfortunately lost at the end of the day. Nocturnal, they picked Cafe, and if these rounds carry out the way they are looking like they might, it definitely could be that trade of map picks here at the moment. There's interesting stuff already playing. The fact that we saw Serenity and AJ, the first frags in that last round, given how impactful those frags, or those operators were to their approach to the bomb site, there's certain operators that you just don't want to be losing early in the round. For a reading room fireplace hold, it's the soft breach. You don't want someone who is going to enable those vertical angles to go down. On kitchen, you don't want to be losing your hard breach. That's unfortunately such a key role to be playing, especially when you've only got one hard breacher. If they lose Crescent here, this is going to be a very, very hard push. On the defense, the last thing you want to lose is your Legionnaire Maestro. Those operators that are going to stall out, play the clock, delay that push inevitably from coming. But you look at Diana playing on the third floor, pulls back when she realizes that that pressure is coming, and look to impact through Nitro cells and that information being fed. This is a very, very solid read out of ShadowNet. They're not overcommitting where they don't need to. They're looking to play that deep roam game. They're looking to use all the utility available.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not committing bodies to the hole. They're reading it quite well and going, I'm feeling under pressure. I don't want to lose a gun off of our defensive side. So we're simply going to retract away from this and live to fight in another few seconds. So one thing I want to make note of is the impact that Sav has had within the first, couple of minutes of the first round, and racking up a 3-0. Now, Sav was someone we saw, I guess, a little bit quiet and more on the support side of it in the first map, and coming out exceptionally strong on the Twitch to really get some solid frags down. And there it is, Soy managing to get AJ. That's the sledge and your top breach down. Luckily it wasn't Crescent given the position, but there is a double man commit or a double woman commit on the back of White Stairs, and Soy is fully aware of that, not ready to give that angle away. As the soft pings come out at the back of reading, it seems that Soy realizes, hey, I'm in a bit of a pinch here, so I need to do what I can to deny time and burn it as best as I can. Diana shut down Aussie Princess, and Sav is in return shutting down Soy. Soy being such a strong component of ShadowNet on the previous game. Sav pushing down through pillars. Is he aware of the Mozzie? She is aware of the Mozzie. Diana holding a hard angle, but no, that F2 proving its worth. Sav clutching out a double kill for the round. And once again, 5-0. Sav is absolutely turning up the heat and looking very comfortable on Cafe right now.
Yeah, look, hey, it wouldn't be too far to the realms of possibility to say that Sav is just straight cracked right now. 5 frags unanswered by her at the very least at the moment. 5-0 is a great situation to be in, but the biggest problem, I think, Nocturnal are facing, there's 10 seconds on the clock. You've got a Maestro, Legion, and a Mute available to them. They've got to go for a force here. Pie is going to take some big damage. It's ducked behind the bench. Goes for the shot. Connects it. Will be dropped herself, though. Jumping over the bench. ShadowNet, they still win it on time. Crips finds a kill. Pie goes down. 2 rounds in a row. 2 rounds where Nocturnal didn't have the time management they needed to get into the bomb site with room to work.
Absolutely. So ShadowNet winning it out solely on time once again. It just came down to, those last 15 seconds, and it was like, all right, girls, we need to send it. We're out of time. We've just got to try and click for frags. And just one of the unfortunate positions to be in, because you never want to be full sending onto site with, only a few seconds to spare, because as a defender knows that all you have to do is hold those one angles. The intel's already there. They know where they're pushing from because they haven't ticked off the boxes of, bakery control. All they've really managed to do in the time they've had is get those first 2 floors clear, and now they've got to commit to one angle because they're simply out of time. So all the defenders had to do was simply lay prone on site and just wait for that push and wait for that time to come through. As we're into the 3rd round now, ShadowNet 4-0. This is a very cracky start and almost polar opposite of what we saw on the previous map. And I keep referencing it, never discount a team until the games are all said and done. And whilst Nocturnal had such a commanding force on the original map, ShadowNet are definitely throwing it back in their face and saying, you know what, you beat us on our pick, or we're going to give you an absolute run for your money on your pick.
Yeah, and not a bad way at all to start things off here as we head up to the 3rd floor. They're looking to complete a full response site rotation of their own. A lot of tools on the board to make it very, very hard to get themselves in. And you look at that ticked off deep on the roam, down on that 1st floor yet again. Going to be lurking on the vigil, trying to make something big happen. Diana, surely this isn't Dia and gunning for a spawn peak here. Looking for that from Piano, might be able to find it. Look, these pre-prep barricades, playing the mind game, looking to use their sound propagation tools to get that information up and ready once the repels start. But ticked off, looking to do some real damage here, trying to find the right angle. Not going to find it just yet, but it's a case of have Nocturnal done their job? Have they droned out the 1st floor? Because if not, this could be a hugely impactful roam from Tick.
Absolutely, and interesting adaptation from AJ to bring the Ash, which is not an operator that we've actually seen a lot of tonight. And I think almost Nocturnal going, hey, we need to start to play to our strengths because we won the first map due to our aggressiveness on how we played the rounds out. And to an extent, whilst they have been aggressive, they've definitely turned the dial down a little bit, map on map comparison, in terms of obviously playing on time as opposed to closing the rounds out early. So, you know, are they reading it going, we need to bring one of those shift W operators, obviously in the Ash with the R4C, to really start to turn the heat up and actually throw a bit of the aggressiveness back in ShadowNet's face, also realizing that they're really only missing out by a matter of seconds. So bringing an operator that is really designed for frags and pushing onto site, obviously having the ability to get rid of any utility and things like that is always nice, but you know, Ash is a fragger role. So is this AJ going, you know what, I want to turn the heat up, I can see what the rest of the team is doing, I can see what Crips is doing, I want a piece of that action. You know, we'll see how this round plays out.
At the moment, Diana's doing a great job of wasting time here in Pixel. Has burnt the majority of the round so far as that utility dump starting. We'll have to pull off the angle back into Washer and try and keep at least that gun in play for as long as possible. Sav working her way on the cigar balcony, trying to find that long angle through bar. Anyone deep on Cocktail, but nothing found just yet. Soy might be punished here. But no, she just tucks her head and is going to be alive for now. The real question is just how close are they going to be when that gunfight eventually starts? 40 seconds left on the clock. A lot of time wasted here by ShadowNet so far. Nocturnal have to pull the trigger at some point. The question is, when does it happen? Who's going to be the one to initiate? AJ swinging does take some big damage from Soy there, the MPX. Unfortunately, not quite as powerful as some of the other guns in play on defense, but enough to tag up AJ low. Do they go for the contest? Spraying through, guns blazing at the moment. In time, it's looking more and more dire here for Nocturnal. They have to force something. The room from below. Air jab comes out, takes the first one to fall, but Soy responds. It's going to be present to go down. Soy with another stab, hits the dirt. Just going absolutely huge. Soy with a triple. Another big multi-kill. Looking for more. Soy with a quad. Their second of the night. ShadowNet with the full response by rotation. This is the defense they were looking for.
This is insane. You know, watching Soy on the Valkyrie on the edge of Cocktail, I was gritting my teeth because I can almost bet that she was pixels away from being spotted with the push from Red Hatch or New Hatch there. So very lucky placement, but paid off massively. Soy being the clear MVP here, ripping a 4K out on the Valkyrie. To your point, definitely not a strong weapon compared to the rest of the field, but proving its worth and shutting down essentially the entirety of the attacking force. Seeing Serenity opt for the Ash instead. Unfortunately, AJ not really proving much in that sense there. Just could have come down to positioning and combat and timing. But once again, when we see the rounds play out, these girls are living and breathing the 20-second meta and almost raising the bar to the 10-second meta. It was a 5v5 with 15 seconds left on the clock before the alright girls, let's push on the site came out. So in terms of time, this is how ShadowNet are winning there. They anchored site, they played their angles correctly, and they just simply waited for Nocturnal to commit to ascend, and they shut it down with seconds to spare. So ShadowNet once again looking really strong consistently round after round after round.
Yeah, just the sheer capability of their defense shining through, and coming into round number 4, they've secured 3.
5 seconds left.
And it's only after going to round number 4 we see the 4 nitro cells coming out. Hell in a nitro cell, making its way through here for the Reading Room Fireplace defense. Nocturnal, they're going to have to play this ball is lava. They cannot stop moving for an instant, otherwise they will be punished heavily. And you can see the changes that have been made here by Nocturnal. They double down on the roam denial, Jackal and Nomad here in the round. And honestly, they're just reacting at the moment. The reason that we saw the Ash come in, because Sledge was being punished as soon as that swing happened, as soon as the floor was open, it was someone with the vertical angle and they found the kill. So what's better than that? Go for the range soft breach. And unfortunately, they just haven't been able to combat the deep roam that has been the aim of ShadowNet at the moment. That's why we see them doubling down on the Jackal and the Nomad.
Yeah, Jackal is an operator we have seen appear a number of times tonight. Whether it's proved its worth or not is still begging the question, but I think it's, a solid adaptation from the girls to pick up and go, okay, our roam game is, we're getting shut down from multiple angles here. We can't afford to lose our soft breach. We can't afford to lose our hard breach. We're going to need to bully these roamers out of their position without committing physical bodies to the push, because we just can't keep imposing those 1v1s out. As we've seen here, Lamai taking a touch of damage, but in return, Sav taking a huge amount of damage, and that's Lamai on the roam, and Soy being a very impressive force for the entirety of both these maps so far. Very aggressive hold, simply thrown behind that cocktail with the landing open in case it needs to drop. Quick peek up. Soy says, thank you very much. Sav, see you later. Get onto cam duty, and there it is, trade for trade, round for round, Serenity and Soy, then time for Serenity, and before I can finish my sentence, we're a 4v3 with a top floor clear, still incomplete. Time for Pi is simply burning exactly that, the time that she has, as they still get to work. Aussie Princess on the Jackal with full utility in hand, not getting that ability used at all yet, which is an interesting play. So whether we see that come out late round, question mark, not too sure. Still air jabs up the sleeve, and they do still have a hard breach. And yes, they don't have that soft breach. And there it is, Crescent getting very aggressive on the push, shutting down what was remaining of the mute. The C4 comes out by the Goyo, but it is unsuccessful as Crips makes a very smart decision to get back to site and remove herself from that position as she felt the pressure coming, and is using the verticality of the hole rather that C4 just opened. There is 30 seconds left on the clock, and once again Nocturnal needs to start committing to the push. Ticked off is there though to tick off Aussie Princess, and she returns to her cam duty as well. That's quickly refragged out, and the Valkyrie says goodnight, and that was from AJ on the Nomad. 13 seconds once again. We are living that 20-second meta. The My charge is still in place, and it's going to be a complete send on to side as Crit clutches that Crescent gets himself one, going for the plant. It's all up to Deanna. 1v1. Can they stick the plant? No, they can't. There it is, Deanna with the clutch, and ShadowNet take another round on Cafe.
And 4 rounds in a row. This is looking like a mirror repeat of map number 1, but ShadowNet the ones to do it at the moment. They are looking clean here on Cafe. They are taking these victories handily from their opponents. I mean, even in that 1v1 situation, they had a player down trying to cover the angle over was 90 hallway, but that's not where the player was coming from. They were coming from pillars. They didn't have a chance. Diana swings in, kills the player on the plant, and it was all over. All said and done. And you can see these consistent changes that are coming in the lineup for Nocturnal. They're all reactive. They're all trying to find some way to give them an ability to contest these rounds, because they just don't seem to have the answer.
No, and it's an interesting adaptation just talking about that. As I said, they've gone down to Kitchen, but they've brought the Bandit instead. So, when we saw them back on Consulate, there wasn't a lot of denial brought to those garage walls in the way of electricity, be it Kaid or the Bandit. This is the first time we're seeing them bring that deniability. So the question is, how is the Bandit going to play the role? Obviously, the attacking force doesn't really have anything to remove that, assuming that they don't get verticality. They're going to have to rely on soft floors to remove any of those batteries from the wall, because obviously there's no Maverick. Thatcher has been banned, so they can't utilize his utility either. So it's all going to come down to how they play that out. And to your point, the adaptation, the constant change of operators and the roles in which they're playing. We see now Sav operating the Ashe as opposed to the Twitch, which she's been so consistent on for the events that have played out on this map so far. Time for Pi operating the Legion, which has netted her a couple of kills as well. So see how the round plays out. As we said, 4-0. ShadowNet looking very strong at the moment to take us to our deciding map. Only 3 more rounds to go, and do we see a complete rinse and repeat only role reverse from the first map only 20 minutes or so ago.
ShadowNet are about to hit them with the Uno card. The big reverse coming into play, but the swapping, the changing Nocturnal, they're obviously just a little bit flustered here at the moment. That much is very much certain, and you've got to wonder just what can they do. They need to slow things down. They need to think clearly and start communicating and get themselves back into this map. Otherwise, they risk that 7-1 shutout on the reverse this time around. And Soy, again, in a great spot to punish here. It's not a position that is often contested on that red stairs position. If she can find a frag, could definitely upset this attack as it starts to make its way and looking for that vertical control. Already, time is ticking away. We're getting closer and closer to the second half of this round. Soy, ready with the impact, trying to find an angle there as they are looking to open up that floor in fireplace above the freezer. But they haven't done their job and cleared up the third floor. This could be punished. ShadowNet could have a huge read here.
Yeah, absolutely. That roam game has been strong for Nocturnal so far. And before we know it, the trades come out. Serenity for Crips and Soy for Sav. So that's the Ash proving, unfortunately, ineffective this time around. But they do manage to get the Mute in trade. So it is a 1-for-1, leaving the score tied at 4-4 with a minute left on the clock. In terms of Tive management, girls are looking pretty good right now. They have some level of control, but Soy being able to roam around as much as she has is definitely proving a real thorn in the side of Nocturnal. And, to the points before about flustered in the constant changes, obviously a number of these girls are new to the pro scene or the competitive scene, so they are learning almost on the fly to an effect, and playing in these high pressure environments when you've committed so much time and energy and emotion to a game that you care so much about and you want to prove your worth, you want to shut it down. But before I can finish my sentence, we're in a 4v2 and ShadowNet are here to play the game. They have absolutely turned up the heat, and Time for Pie closes out Crescent. Before we know it, 2v1 Aussie Princess. It all falls to you and the Nomad. Full load of ammo with air jabs completely denied. There is some drones in pocket. 30 seconds left. It is a post-plant situation. She manages to get one through a soft peek on the wall. Can she get a second? It is a double, but unfortunately, Diana is there for the refrag. And that is the Mozzie putting that P10 to absolute work. And Nocturnal, you only missed that by about 45 HP to a massive effort, and probably the closest we have seen them come to date on this map to close that around.
Aussie Princess with the posthumous triple is unfortunately the remaining players of ShadowNet just bled out on the floor, but my lord, Time of Pie with that flick spray just onto the head of Crescent behind the bench, just connecting with heads. They have put on a real solid defense here so far. They're looking to repeat map number 1. 5 rounds in a row here on the defense. 1 2/3 of a flawless bomb site rotation so far. They're looking for that flawless half as we head back up to the 3rd floor. And this was the bomb site. Soy got her 4K, her second one of the night. Could we see that play out again? Soy has just been an absolute beast with that MP5.
Absolutely, and consistent on the Wamai as well. Head click after head click after head click. To your point, 2 4Ks so far. Obviously, the second one being on the Valkyrie as opposed to the Wamai. But definitely in terms of the kill count, I mean, you can see the stats on your screen: 7-0-4. Soy definitely proving that she knows how to play these operations and especially play this game. So anything can happen. An interesting note, though, and it's a fun fact that I like to always resort back to in terms of site selection and how these things play out, because there's always those players or those teams that have their favorite site. There's a site that they love to go to, so as soon as it becomes open, they'll revert straight back to that. And at this point in time, it's just a constant change up. There's no site that they're going, you know what, we're going to keep coming back. They're just going through the motions. Obviously, a very commanding lead, 5-0. They're just rinse and repeating the cycle that they've got. So reading kitchen bar, just the same 3 sites over and over, because they know what works. They've got a strategy. The operator pick is not changing a lot here, which we're seeing from Nocturnal, the constant adaptation to bring new ops to the field to try and counteract how ShadowNet are managing to fend them off and either run down the clock or simply remove the heads in the last few seconds. So, these girls are learning on the fly. They're learning very quickly, and ShadowNet are looking very comfortable right now to potentially close this out at a 7-0 ?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's talking about interesting factoids. Sav has not been able to pick up a frag since round number 2. 3 rounds in a row. She has been stuck in a drought purely off the back of ShadowNet going huge. Unfortunately, Soy this time won't have the shot at a repeat 4K. AJ just landing that cooked egg on her head. What a shot to be landing. Unfortunately, not one of the big utility operators in terms of those nitro cells that are still available, but still a heavy impact fragger now off the board for ShadowNet.
Absolutely. Removing Soy as an early pick. I guess when you look at the defending lineup in terms of who do you want off the board first, Soy is definitely going to be up there because she has continued to prove her worth, as we mentioned only moments ago, in terms of the kill count. So now that Soy is reserving, or rather retracting back to the cam duty, they may have a much more better position in terms of how they manage the push. We do see Cripps getting very aggressive on the top there. He wants to make sure that there is no one pressuring the back of White Stairs, so he's going to fortify his position there. And it is all going to come down to the remaining defenders on site. We see a pixel hold. Aussie Princess getting very aggressive. Out comes the smoke. The ADS deny any of that utility being sent that way. And Deanna sitting pretty for just one moment. Off comes the ADS. A very smart ADS tricking on the fly with a three-man team, or three-women team pressuring her. The pressure that she must be under to try and commit to do that is absolutely out of this world.
They can't get the shield anymore. There's no utility for it. This pixel angle has worked so well. Diana unfortunately gets swung on, but the amount of time wasted by this single player in this single position has been so huge. The swing happens on the other side of things. Cripps gets AJ over the shoulder. Serenity does some big damage there as well. Ticked off, dropped by the AK-12 of Aussie. It's a 2 versus 3 here. Dark Cripps. Can she go big? Can she find more frags? Are they going to be watching the angles? Oh no! The lineup hit! She finds 2! Crescent and Serenity go down.
No.
And all of a sudden, 15 seconds left to play. Diffuser not in hand. Aussie has to find 2. That was a huge keep calm moment that paid off for ShadowNet.
Out comes the C4, and there it is. Time for Pi, clearing up what is left of Aussie Princess. 2 minutes burnt, so 2.5 minutes burnt on that shield on Pixel. In terms of roam clear and anchoring, the Jaeger was undislodgeable, if that's even a word. They could not remove her, and she was pivotal to clutching out the round for ShadowNet once again. So we're going to the half at 6-0, a commending lead. And Nocturnal, you have a lot of work to do right now. You are at a 0 right now. You need 6 consecutive rounds on defense to even begin the OT timing. So a phenomenal play by the Jaeger to be able to deny what essentially was a 3-man commit onto one little pixel angle on in the piano area. So very well played by the team.
Oh, Cripps, don't do it to him, please. The Fuse 6 pick from the Jackal, just twisting the knife there in the side of Nocturnal. That was insane. She swung, got the kill over Serenity's shoulder, pulled into Washroom. They got Washroom open. The miscommunication there from Nocturnal. They just assumed that Cripps had pulled back. They push in, looking for the angle into Bar. Cripps lines them up, guns them down. That was just top-tier play coming out of ShadowNet. They kept their cool. They did not over-aggress when they didn't need to, and they are now sitting poised to take us to map 3. 6-0. Both opening halves of both maps have been picked up by opposite teams, respectively. But if history repeats itself, we will see one round go Nocturnal's way, and then ShadowNet shut it out. But if somehow Nocturnal can dig deep, they need 6 rounds in a row. 6 rounds where they cannot make a single mistake, lest they risk being taken the coastline. And, I mean, you look, they're playing the mind games already. ShadowNet, they're going to bring a fuse. They're trying to chip away at that mental armor of Nocturnal here. You've got to wonder, have they got what it takes to remain strong enough to get to OT?
Yeah, and to your point of bringing Consulate out, when we look at Nocturnal and the historics of bringing out Consulate, you know, it rings of unfortunate losses, particularly against Elevate in a 7-on-1 smashing. So, you know, Nocturnal are really, I would imagine, be completely conscious of that. Fuse getting to work nice and early, and out come the Fuse charges onto the top of Mini Cocktail. I can almost guarantee that the defending team did not know this was happening as the Fuse proved its worth. Unfortunately, doesn't do any damage, but hasn't removed a lot of utility. Time for Pi, capitalizing on some aggressive angles and shutting down the Jaeger from what looks like the top of New Hatch. So a very nice early pick, prompting a ShadowNet in a very good position right now. They're simply having fun. They're 6-0. They're at a point where they can afford to lose a round or two and it's not game-changing. But do they want to show face to Nocturnal and go, you know what? You 7-0'd us almost. We're going to do the exact same thing to you on your pick just to one-up you. There's a definite level of competition from these girls right now.
As we head into the second half of the round, ShadowNet, they need to find 4 more to close out map number 2. Aussie's going to bring it back even. Crips goes down, but Soy answers back yet again. It's going to be the Whamai now hitting the dirt. That's the utility deniers gone. Unfortunately, that upside down rappel can be a bit tenuous, so Sav will be able to punish there on the Kaid. And Pi swinging in, finds a double in the round. These girls are doing some big work. AJ being threatened, pulls out the M590, trying to go for the long angle, but can't clutch it. It's going to be all on the shoulders of Sav. A 1v2 effectively to get themselves another shot. Swinging, finds the kill on the tick, but Pi has been picked up by this stage. Plant going down, it's Diana with the diffuser in hand. Ping's coming out, so the information is there. Swinging out, it's time for Pi to close it out. ShadowNet with a 7-0 response.
Absolute smashing. If there's ever a talk about a comeback after copping a 7-1, ShadowNet have proven exactly that, not even giving Nocturnal 1 round and 7-0ing them. This is an absolute game changer and a total switch up of what we saw on the first map, and we will be going to the decider map of Coastline. Now, to the point I said before, you know, Nocturnal don't necessarily have an amazing track record on this map. So, you know, are they going to be feeling the pressure right now after ShadowNet came in such a tremendous and demanding force on that map? You know, morale's got to be low. They've got to regroup. They've got to pull out the strap book and go, all right, wash it off. It was a bad game. It happens to the best of us, and prep themselves for the next round to come up. But holy moly, there is so many things that we could talk of on this round and unpack, I guess, the way these played out. But just that, the thing from the 20-second meta, I can't get away from it. How much time that the defending side in Nocturnal, in ShadowNet rather, just burnt away. Like, it came down to that 10 or 15 seconds before the push onto site came on, and ShadowNet just simply had to hold angles. They had already managed to get a couple of early picks, whether it be Soy on Valk getting a 4K for a second time tonight, or whether it's the Jaeger burning over 2 minutes on that pixel hold. They just seem to be able to read the strats of the opposing team, and these girls are just going at it toe-to-toe, head-for-head, frag for frag.
That's exactly it. Now coming into it, the scoreboard has reset. These first 2 maps don't matter for a damn. We're going to the decider. It is all down to this final map. Both teams are going to have to dig deep here, and look, hey, it couldn't have been a better map to close it out. We are going to throw it to a quick break before we head into Coastline, but it is all down to this. One map is all that separates either of these two teams for a shot at the grand finals, and, well, hey, it looks like ShadowNet are warmed up and ready to go now.
Absolutely. It's coming down to, you know, as we said at the start of the game, we were like, we can't read any of these teams. The stats that these players bring to the table are super impressive, and they've all got their own track record of a significant amount of wins coming into this competition, and they've proved exactly that. You know, it was a tremendous force that they had to deal with in Consulate with Nocturnal going 7-1, but ShadowNet completely flipped it on their head and just 7-0'd them on the next map. So, you know, it is quite literally anyone's game at this point. The first 2 maps, they mean nothing. You know, aside from some stats that they can now pad and have on the resume, they mean nothing. It's all coming down to hopefully the frag fest that is Coastline. So we will take a short break, and when we come back, we will kick off for the deciding map that is Coastline in Nocturnal versus ShadowNet.
podcast of the grapevine. Send your podcast to the grapevine. Hey, put you in your place, look. Leave your thoughts on the floor like Facebook. Yeah, got them from grapevine. Send your podcast to the grapevine. Hey, put you in your place, look. Leave your thoughts on the floor like Facebook. Yeah, got them from grapevine. Send your podcast to the 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 grapevine. Hey, put you in your place, look. Leave your thoughts on the bar like Facebook. Yo, got them from grapevine. Send your podcast to the grapevine. Hey, put you in your place, look. Leave your thoughts on the bar like Facebook. Yo, got them from grapevine. Send your podcast to the grapevine. Grapevine, 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 grapevine. Send your podcast to the 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 grapevine.
skills. That guy can't shoot straight. Even on still targets, I'm sure he'd miss.
A little bit more to the right. No, left! You're making it worse! I can't help it!
Whatever he shoots with, he must have the worst aim in the world. Or maybe the worst in the whole galaxy. And even with superpowers, he'd still be far from super. Such an easy win.
Welcome back. It has gone the full distance, Dark. Map 3 on the way. Coastline coming out, and what better map could you ask for as a decider? Frag heavy. We are going to see the mechanical skill of both these teams shine through in the decider. Both teams gunning for that grand final spot. And hey, look, in all honesty, I'd love to go to the beach right now. It's very humid over here in New Zealand. We're going to jump straight into it. Operator bands coming through. What are you expecting?
Look, as I've been so consistent in terms of picks, Thatcher's not an operator that you would ban on this site. I mean, it's not one that would make sense. Do they go for the comfort ban, just remove that utility denial completely out of the park? I would expect to see potentially even a Blackbeard that can be quite demanding again for those vertical holds, whether it be rooftop or on the reverse rappel. Jackal is one that I would have expected as well because of the roam clear that Jackal provided, particularly in the last game. Obviously didn't net Nocturnal any rounds, unfortunately, but it definitely proved something for ShadowNet to be aware of. So reading into this, I'm expecting the roam game to be completely there and very prevalent in this round. Capitão, another operator that makes total sense. So removing any of that fire to dislodge those defenders, and of course a smoke utility that he then brings as well with the hard breaching tool. So an operator that they don't want to have to deal with. Valkyrie is the third ban, obviously coming out of the Nocturnal team, so they don't want to have to deal with any of that utility, any of that visibility. They just want to simply be able to run around and have a lot of fun tonight. We see the fourth ban coming out. Mirror's been a pretty consistent one. Do they ban Mirror on this site? Look, I don't know. Anyone could come out as the timer runs down to 0. What they will prove, I went 2 for 2. The streak continues throughout the night.
Well, it's the dual Spaniard ban strategy coming out there for the ShadowNet roster, both Jackal and Mirror being taken away here. But, hey, look, I'm very excited. Amaru's still in play here, Dark. We could see it make a resurgence. And, I mean, Coastline is a map that she plays reasonably well onto. And,
absolutely.
Lord, that's something else that plays very well. The Finker Blackbeard strat. That is disgusting. If it does get picked, I would imagine there's going to be a 6th pick. The question is, who is it going to be? Is it going to be Crescent on the Finker? I would imagine it's probably more likely that than the Blackbeard. But no, it is going to be the Blackbeard. It's going to be an eye. Look, I mean, I'm just as happy with that. The Space Cadet, she will be sending in the Gemini Replicator. Plays interestingly. And look, there's nothing worse than shooting that Gemini Replicator and thinking you just got a kill.
Absolutely. If you're sitting there on the ShadowNet team right now and seeing that Finker Blackbeard combo, you're just sitting there going, oh no, here we go. First round in, and out comes the send from the shield operator with the one that brings the nanite boosts as well to remove any of that recoil and boost up the HP of the attacking side. Obviously, the Blackbeard has been opted out for the Iana as well, which makes total sense in this instance. So we do opt to go down into kitchen and service to kick things off. Malusi is back on the field, and Crips is quick to take her up. Obviously, she was banned last round. Make sure that those wobs are all in the right position. And as we all know, this map is something that definitely relies on verticality. So I would expect a very strong hold from the defenders upstairs as well as downstairs, making sure that VIP trophy and potentially even extending out to Master is locked down to deny any of the approaching attacking force any free real estate in that top floor hold.
Look, I only have one question coming into this map, and I'll direct it straight to you, Duck. How long until we see our first run out? Because Coastline is a map that it just goes hand in hand. Surely we're going to see someone go for a jump out, run out, spawn peek, something wildly aggressive on the defense. It's got to be a matter of time.
Absolutely, and to be perfectly honest, it's been a quite passive start. We haven't seen anyone running out from Aqua. There's been no one running out of service yet. It's almost like the girls are getting a feel from the play styles from each other for at least the first couple of rounds before they start going, you know what, I'm going to send it straight out of Aqua and look straight into spawn to see if I can get a little head click out of that. So Ash playing quite passively at the moment, making sure the drone game is strong, clearing out any of those roamers that they would be fully well aware is playing upstairs to, as I said before, deny them that verticality. And we do see the Malusi and the P10 Roni driven Mozzie by Diana committed to that top floor hold. So they're going to need to dislodge both of those operators, either by removing them, forcing them back to site, or by simply clicking them in the head with the guns that they bring to the table and bringing the man count down. So this is critical to this site because post-plant situations, if you don't have that top floor control, then this can quickly be shut down in a matter of seconds.
Diana, well, speaking of shutdown, she's been droned out. She could be in for a world of hurt here as she is locked into theatre at the moment. No real recourse, although you see that Nocturnal less willing to pull the trigger. It's going to be Pi to hit the dirt first. Not killed, but downed, not out. They can still get that pickup should they find the angle, should they find the opportunity. Just bleeding away there, unfortunately. Serenity ready and prepped to run straight to the kitchen door, but it's Soy to open things up, finds the Finker, so no follow-up nano boost going to be coming into play. Tick gets dropped at Stab with that Type 89. They've got themselves into the bomb site. They've got the spread. They've got the control they need. Aussie finds Soy. 3 versus 4 as Sav goes to the plant, swinging in. Serenity just finishes off the mute of Pi. And, well, a 2v4 with 2 players left and the defense locked out of the bomb site. The snake play could be big for Crips, but no, Sav ready and waiting for the angle to play in. It's all on Diana, that P10 Roni that we were just talking about. Is it going to be enough? Diana's so low right now. Has that nitro, but at this stage, if she bumped her head on the door frame, she'd be going down.
1 HP in a post-plan situation in a 4v1, I'm going to say at the first round is going to Nocturnal. A very impressive start to this map and really proving their worth here. They were on site and had full control in the sake of 2 minutes, which compared to the previous rounds, we've seen both these teams go to not see a plant with only 15 seconds left is a complete change of pace from the last 2 maps that we have seen. So this is definitely playing to one team's advantage. The question is, you know, who is it going to be? Nocturnal, great start, but can they keep this consistent? Because as we've seen, ShadowNet can definitely outplay them as well, as they went 7-0 versus 7-1 on the first map. We see Finker make a return, so they're putting bets on the fact that these nanites are the game-changing solution and they are the strat. Crips opting to 6-pick off of the Malusi and bring question mark is who's that going to be. Soy on the Wamai, unfortunately getting picked off a little bit early there, and we do see the Goyo opt out as well. So a solid defensive lineup, and we have opted to go up to that double bar setup. So I'm very keen to see how this site plays out and how far they extend the roam game here, because as we know, again, that master hole is also critical in case the operator of the attacking team get a little bit cocky and start to commit for an east side clear, and of course how they play that verticality as well. Interesting, we haven't seen, I guess, someone to play underneath down in Sunrise to clear those default positions in terms of operators, like a Buck or something. Obviously, you could connect up, maybe say Atch from AJ to get under there, or even Habana or something like that. But again, that verticality is detrimental to this site. So very keen to see how the girls position themselves to play not only the top 4 hold, but also the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, look, you look at Coastline, you break it down, it's basically like a baby theme park. It's all horizontal play more than, you know, that depth of roam with those multi-story buildings that we see in other maps. So you got to go for roam and find impact in other ways. It's much more condensed than theme park, so it's very linear. You've got very, very decided avenues of which way you can get back to the bomb site. So At the moment, it's going to be on to just how well Aussie Princess can play that roam denial. Look at that, AJ, just straight over the roof, straight onto Hookah Balcony, ready and waiting to try and get it. I'm not quite sure what the play was, trying to bait out some shots, I think, from the Hookah window. But at the moment, you can see aggression coming out from Nocturnal. And Crescent, he's going to find the opener. She gets the kill on the Crips. That's the Goyo down. That's a Nitro Cell as well. And this aggressive start from Nocturnal is really paying out.
I think LMG put into good work, and that's Crescent again, continually proving the worth of Finca on this site. Definitely not an operator that I would have expected to have seen, but hey, it's working for Nocturnal right now, and they're getting clicks after clicks after clicks. And I think AJ early on was simply doing Ashe things, as any Ashe main would know. The whole point of having an Ashe player is to just run around the site and bully anyone that gets in her way. So she's just practicing her shift W tactics, you know, doing some quick vault, getting warmed up for the push into sight. We see a Finca boost come out, which would indicate some level of aggression on terms of the push, but nevertheless, they are playing, they're holding those angles. We see Time for Pi taking a small touch of damage, but anchoring hard in Billiard with the smoke in hand to cover that default plant behind. Floor is obviously open with verticals as well. So out comes the C4 from Ticked Off, which doesn't net any damage to any of the attacking team, although they do throw some back in her face, and she manages to get down almost half health. Blue Hold is getting quite aggressive, but looks like it was denied as they play quite passively. Ticked Off having to anchor hard, watching two angles between through Hookah as well as Cool Vibe Stairs. The question is, will she get pushed out, or will she continue to burn time? Right now, she's sitting pretty and still burning the clock down. Diana gets picked out, which is quickly refragged out by Aussie Princess, the Swiss utility of Operator Army Knives right now. And there's Labana getting an aggressive pinch onto that mute jammer, that mute player. It's now a 2v4 with 37 seconds left on the clock. Time management here is working a lot better for the defending side as opposed to last round. The sprays come out, but nevertheless, that's the Ashe proving to good worth. It's all up to Savage. No, that's a team kill. Super unfortunate, and Soy is left in a 1v3 with 20 seconds on the clock. We have seen Soy in these positions before. Can she clutch it out? It is a super tricky spot. I don't see this happening post-plant situations. The defuser is down. The Finca boosts come out. There's a lot of utility to deal with, a lot of strong operators and a lot of strong weaponry right here. If I was Soy, you're either going to need to get aggressive here and start clicking some heads, or even potentially use this for a tactical timeout. But no, she opts to swing, and Crescent is ready in the back blue stairs and shuts her down. And that's another round into the pocket of Nocturnal.
Yeah, 2 rounds, 2 post-plant situations going the way of Nocturnal. You got to feel bad for Ticked Off. Like, just tagged in the shoulder around the shield, having to cover a 360-degree angle from just outside Hookah door. It's not a situation you ever want to find yourself in.
The pressure that she would have been facing right there in that situation, getting swung on by both Hookah as well as the back hallway down through 90, as well as blue stairs. You know, she did well to burn the time that she did, but to your point, we digress and we go to Hookah and Billiards. And they want to give it another crack.
I mean, you could see the visible panic as she was just flicking to every which angle trying to cover something, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. We see the same attacking roster coming out in Hookah Billiards. This time around, we don't see a mute, so they've changed things around a little bit. Pi will be bringing the Legion as the smoke was handed over to the mute player of Ticked Off. I'm going to be interested to see where this Legion looks to play from. I mean, the Goo Mine solid for slowing things down. The T5, very, very good gun at the moment with the changes that were made to it. And you can already see the changes in positioning have been made. The shield, it's not going to be sitting in Hookah door this time. It's going to be sitting at the top of Cool Vibes, looking to lock down that angle. They're playing a little bit more reserved here.
And when we look at site selection, it's just interesting to see that the girls have opted to go back to Hookah and Billiards. And when we rewind back to the previous maps, that they never committed to the same site twice in a row, with the exception of Consulate, where they went to Garage and Cafe twice. So interesting to see that they've actually gone and almost mixed up a little bit to rinse and repeat the site to give it another go. Obviously, they're confident in the strat and they want to really give it a proper play out. They're now sort of semi-aware. They're getting almost into a bit of a pattern as to how Nocturnal are going to approach this. They've got the nanites to boost them. Obviously, the Ashe Rush is there, and they have Aussie Princess driving the Nomad as well. So, interesting fun fact. It's a fun fact. Some of those, like as I like to say, that this is the first time we're seeing, the second time tonight in almost 2 1/3 maps that they've actually opted to go for the same site twice, as opposed to keeping that constant rotation and constant mix up for the attacking side.
You know why that is, Dark? Because we've that last round was the third attacking win we've seen tonight. That's absolutely wild. We have seen very, very few attackers rounds. In fact, it has been Nocturnal who have won. Actually, no, sorry, four attacking rounds, because obviously after the half it was ShadowNet who had to pick it up. But three of 4 attacking rounds have been Nocturnal who did pick them up. They've got a lot of the momentum here. In this round, though, Serenity is going to be the first one to feel the bite of the lead. And she's going to be tagged up heavy the on it. It's a lot of utility still on the board. They've got 4 frag grenades, which is not something you see every day unless there's a Maverick and a Sledge being brought. So they can still look to do a lot from below. And that seems to be the play. You got 2 of those frag operators down below in office looking for something. But it's really a question of, are the drones there? Is the information there so they can connect?
Yeah, it's interesting that so they've got their roam hold, and you can see Jaeger holding, over by the back of Party or on that 90 angle there. And I don't know if AJ on the Ash is actually aware that there is someone there to contest that position. So if they move away from this site without clearing out those 2 rooms, then, come late round, that this could prove game changing. And you see Soy there literally prone on 90, completely exposed, fully aware that someone's playing in VIP. The pre-fire come out, but they're unlucky in landing. They do tag up Savno. No, never mind. It was Crips on the Wamai tagging up and removing Sav, followed up by Time for Pie on the Legion, taking care of Crescent. A cracking start from ShadowNet, managed to get 2 pickups, living that 5x3. There's the swing, and AJ shuts down 2 of them out of Party, and on the top of White Stairs, the Ash send with the R4C, proving way too much for both Sweet and Deanna in the Mozzie Jaeger combo. That is the room cleared, and they'll be cleared for side. Time for Pie, shutting down the Jaeger. Oh my lord, Crips had no idea the peak was coming, and Aussie Princess and AJ get to work clearing site. Before I can finish my sentence, it's 2v1, and they're in a post-plan situation, but AJ wants to add her stats and removes Time for Pie with a little cheeky 1-tap or a 2-tap. Can't read the bullets right, but nevertheless, it was a headshot. Closes the round out, and that's another round into the pocket with Nocturnal.
And a big 4K going the way of AJ there. Big swing to the top White. Found the 2 for nothing in the end. Swung in, found some more, found just frag after frag after frag. And a 2-pronged assault that completely dismantled what should have been a ShadowNet round. And for the 3rd time, we are going to see Hookah Billiards coming out. They are digging deep. They're doubling, tripling down on this bomb site here in the defense. Crips will 6-pack out from the Vigil onto the Whammo, so still more of that utility denial looking to be brought here. So the same roster that we saw in the previous round, but it seems that, AJ and Aussie have built up a bit of a head of steam. It's going to be a hard task to slow them down.
Absolutely, and I think, the girls in Nocturnal are starting to read the situation. To your point, 3rd time, same site, same operator lineup. I question how much longer they can really stretch this out. Obviously, they have a strat. They're fully committed to making this work and at least get, 1 round off. And, the question really begs is if Nocturnal takes this round out again on Hookah and Billiards, will they opt for another side, or will they continue to believe in the setup that they have? I'm interested to see, because it's not necessarily you see so many rinse and repeats, and particularly from these girls in the sake of ShadowNet. When we look at their defense on cafes, they constantly rotated the sites. There was no commitment to one site. They just constantly rotated around. Obviously, because they were winning the site, so therefore means they can't repeat the same site. But they just constantly kept rotating between the 3, and it's see Serenity getting a solid pick, and that's Deanna removed before the game's even really started. The G36D with that 2x getting put to absolute good work, and they've already cleared out the bottom of offers, so they can get to start to work on the rest of the man count. And once again, the plan that ShadowNet had in terms of how do they approach this site with a little bit of a twist on last round, it's just not working out for them. So I question how much longer can they continue the same site, same operator play.
Well, I mean, hey, they seem to be absolutely doubling down on this problem. So we haven't seen double bars come out, but I doubt we're going to see Penthouse there to make its way in. But at the moment, they're gearing themselves up. Frag grenades, but oh, the Lord, this could go horrifically wrong if they find the angle. And speaking of horrifically wrong, that is not a Gemini replicator. That is Serenity herself. Soy finds the frag. That 416 carbine is just an absolute hose. Unfortunately, the scope just not in favour of Soy there in the end. Big element. Oh, okay, Seth, that's not quite how you throw a frag grenade. Somehow it bounced off the remnants of the barricade, and Aqua goes outside. The second one gets picked up by a Whammy Magnet. Sav is now out of secondary utility. They are running low on drones at the moment. There's only 4 left, and 2 of those are on Crips. Oh, Crips, no, don't do it, don't do it! Oh, unfortunately, it was bold, it was ambitious. Almost finds the frag, but unfortunately, Crips just didn't have the health.
And Nocturnal, once again, leading the charge in terms of mound count. Before we know it, it's a 4v1 with a full minute and 10 seconds left on the clock. In terms of round timer, this is probably the strongest we've seen, and they've lived and breathed the 14, 15, 20-second meta for the last 2 maps. They're finally changing up. The plant's going down with full 60 seconds to spare. TikTok gets a solid pick with the SMG-11 removing 1 of the attacking side. Only 3 more to go in a post-plant situation. A massive task with only an SMG-11 in the pocket. Smoke bait still 3 remain, so potentially can close off any late rotations, but 30 seconds to not only compete against 3 attacking operators, and Sav Prone says, hey, thanks very much for trying. See you later. Ticked off. You are now off of my list. And we pocket another round into the scoreboard.
Yeah, the post-plant crossfires were just too good. There was no way Nocturnal should have lost that in the 1v4. But the question is, are we going back? No! We're going to be going to Penthouse Center, it seems. I was joking. Okay, that's more what I expected. Kitchen service going to be coming out. It was one of the close rounds they did have. So we'll see if they can make it work this time around. I think Penthouse is a bit of a reach, in all honesty. It's not the greatest of bomb sites. It's incredibly hard to hold. Unless you're running the mirror DVD strategy where you sit under the TV with a mirror window out, you're going to have a hard time.
Oh, the amount of kills that has netted me in casual and ranked. I think I could make my own clip montage that would extend well past 5 minutes. Phenomenal play, but a little bit disappointed we're not going to see that top floor hole, but nevertheless, the site downstairs in kitchen obviously makes a lot more sense in a competitive setting. And it's good to see that ShadowNet are deciding to change it up just a little bit and move away from the 3 rounds of hookah and billiard that unfortunately didn't net them a single win and went all into the way of Nocturnal. So Nocturnal looking very good coming into the half after this round, or round after, at 4-0. In terms of operator lineup, we obviously are seeing the Maestro, which makes total sense in a kitchen hold. Maestro, will he play in that sort of bathroom area? Is he going to play in the kitchen? Depending on how they want to set it up, they're going to need to start some close rounds out because the gap is forever growing. And if they do go into a 6-0 half, then, it's not going to be looking too good for ShadowNet. We haven't seen them manage to re-pull back, and, with the exception of maybe Consulate, obviously the 1 round that they got, we haven't seen either team able to come back from such a, an alarming round count. So they're going to need to start to do something here and figure out a strat that works for them, because they need the round counts, or they potentially, will not be looking at a grand final position.
I mean, it's Coastline. It's a map that is touted to be more attacker-sided than not. So a 4-2 split is still entirely possible for ShadowNet, and they can look to bring it back in the second half. But they really have been battling against it at the moment. Definitely beaten and downtrodden for the most part. They've got a deep roam going on. Sav going to be tagged up early. Time for Pie. Going and looking for the gunfight now in Sunrise. Skies Goon line shuts up the full entrance. Blade drones coming in, so they are aware of his position. Or her position, sorry. The Legion's position. And we'll be retreating back to the bomb site for now. Going to be playing a bit more of an anchor-centric role. Oh, my lord. It's a good thing they don't have X-Ray, because that would have been a big frag to net through the blue door. Deep
breathing on that pinch there, as you can see the outline of what looks like Cabana holding that angle, and God forbid they could see each other, because holy moly, that would have been a head click and a half. But nevertheless, Crips is locking herself into blue, fully aware that there is a potential push coming through kitchen door and wanting to remove and deny the attackers for as long as possible. And this may potentially be a result of the attacking side not doing a full clear, or either committing to the strat of, no, we have a plan, so we're just going to simply go for frags and clutch that out because Crip's not being removed. And as I say that, AJ gets a pick on Deanna. So they're off to a great start right now and removing that scoreline down to once again to a 5-0. Soy getting very bullied. AJ down to literally a slither of HP. Jaeger once again burning time, but Sav reads it like an open book and shuts down Crip's Aussie Princess as well, removing Soy from that prone position up in VIP. And before we adjust in that minute mark, the 2v5 situation once again, and the rounds are looking strong. 1v5. Could this be the first flawless round of our game tonight? No, it is not. TikTok gets himself a double kill with the bullet hose. Still plenty of ammo in the mag. Does not need to reload anytime soon, but needs to be aware of that stock push as well as the verticality with less than 20 HP. Goes for the free fire through the corner, sees a pixel of a head. It is all coming down to TikTok. This is very tough position, but it is totally winnable. We've seen more dire positions tonight. Can TikTok either burn down the remaining 17 seconds on the clock or go for frags? The comms come out. They're reading the pinch. Out come the red pings. No, he overcommits to the swing. Aussie Princess removes her head, and that is it. Another round in Nocturnal's pocket. We're looking at 5-0 on a 1 round away from the switch.
We could see 3 6-0 opening halves in a row here, Dark. I honestly, in my entire casting career, I have never seen that happen. And I mean, even more bizarre is potentially we could see that comeback. And there we go. Penthouse is being baited here again. I think, honestly, Shadownet are just messing with me at this point. And coming into this, the setup could be there to make it work. 6 pick out for the Echo. He's still currently in quarantine for the majority of competitions at the moment, despite the change being made. But it's too late at that point to bring it out. Penthouse Theatre, it's going to be stuck here. They're going to be committing to it. They're going to be going upstairs for that final round of the half. And look, this is looking a bit bleak for Shadownet. I'm not going to lie. For a second, Nocturnal have done a great job on the attack. They've really shut it down as best they possibly can. And from here, it needs to be some change, and you've got to wonder where it comes from.
And this is the thing, like when we rewind back and look at the previous maps, to your point, 7-1, and then, Shadownet brought it all back after Nocturnal got the first and went 7-0. Like, these teams are not just trading kills, but they're trading maps. Like, it could literally go any way at any point. And obviously, Nocturnal looking very strong in the first half. So they do have, Shadownet have a lot of work to do, but, is this the site for them? It's the first time that we see them go down to this site. Could this be the bullet that they needed? Do Nocturnal know how to deal with this? Classically, this is a very tricky site to hold. There's obviously a big gaping window in the front of site they need to deal with, but not only that, a lot of soft wall behind them, well, a lot of utility, that 90 hold, white stairs hold, security, etc. It all comes down to how the attacking force proceeds along this, and we see AJ committing straight upstairs, straight to the roof, opening up that bathroom hatch. I'm expecting the drones to come out shortly after, start to ascertain exactly where those defending team are locking themselves in. Interestingly enough, though, we do see the Ella come out, which I think is the first time tonight, if my notes are correct. So very keen to see how TikTok plays out, who's been classically the mute or smoke player for most of the games tonight. So opting to bring the Grismop Mines as well as the Scorpion, which is quite a powerful gun, obviously very heavy on the recoil, but a very powerful weapon in the right hand. Looks like they've already got the west side clear as they go for a full swing on a 90 and Soy, taking down a 1 HP. He literally walked away with that with his life. If he had held for 0.1 of a second longer, he would be removed, or she would be removed from this game entirely. That single utility is still there. Crips, Diana with a very long angle, closing down Sav and Crips on the anchor position in VIP Lounge. It's proving a bit of a sticking point for the attacking side now as the drone's cleared out. It's a full 3-man commit from that west side through that bar area. They did bring the Finker again. This could pay dividends late round as we're seeing the Finker boost the nanites obviously pay out time and time again. And obviously AJ driving that Ash. Minute 24 is left on the clock rather, and we are almost stalemating in a 5v4. Nevertheless, the caster curse is real, and out goes Serenity through TikTok. The G36C. Crips get tagged up heavy from Billiards. The question is, yes, he gets away with it. Very lucky timing. Nevertheless, the caster curse is such a real thing, chat. I can't explain this enough. Crips Crips is denied the ability to resume this game and continue playing. Crescent finishes Crips off with a solid grenade straight through in the VIP lounge. Serenity committing some of that utility to that 90-degree clearance. Deanna taking a touch of damage and having to return away from that, no longer able to secure that 90 position. 45 seconds left on the clock, and the girls are pushing up. The time management is looking very good here. They have time up their sleeve. It is a 3v4, so they have the man count advantage. Time for Pie swings at the wrong time, takes half HP damage running that UMP. If she's not hitting headshots, and that UMP is going to lose 9 times out of 10. AJ already in Hall of Fame, pushing to the commit on B side. 21 seconds now left on the clock. Serenity with a solid double, removing Sawyer what was left of her. It's now all up to Deanna and Pi, the Castle and the Maestro combo. What can they do? 2v3, time for Pi proves his worth, getting himself a double with the worst gun in the game and is completely refragged and shut. I think I had no idea where Deanna was sitting. Oh my lord, if you didn't see that coming, I certainly didn't. It's now a 1v1 situation. Both the Ash and the Castle are knocked out, staring at each other on the floor. Who is going to win out of this? It's Diana or the Maestro. Serenity finishing off, and then it's Serenity to clutch out the round against the Maestro and send Nocturnal into a 6-0 flawless half on the attacking side.
Yeah, it's not every day you see FBI operators used as drones. We had a Castle and an Ash on the ground, both of them crawling into Master Bedroom, trying to get that information. Unfortunately, Serenity with that G36 is just a little bit better at the end of the day. Pi did some big work, in all honesty. Found some big frags. They almost shut it down. Unfortunately, Serenity had the diffuser. From there, they got the plant. And this is interesting. For the first time, we're actually going to see Double Buzz making an appearance in Coastline. I never expected to say that going into a half. And
it's literally the first time tonight. We look at the round count. Kitchen and Service we've seen twice. Hooker and Billiards we've seen 3 times. And obviously Penton Theatre coming out once in an attempt to dislodge the attacking side. Obviously not working out for the defensive team. But Blue Bar and Sunrise, I'm ready to see it, girls. I'm ready to see what you can put up for us right now.
Well, Double Buzz coming out. We see the Twitch 6 pick out from the Glades. I would have been keen to see the Russian, in all honesty. He's not the worst operator on this bomb site as well. You just sit outside Blue. You can be a real nuisance out. You can even sit outside the Sunrise window, lock down some of those long angles, prevent the contest on the plant. But at the moment, Nocturnal, 1 round. They are on map and series point right now. If they take this one away, they will be moving on to the grand finals to face up against Elevate. That revenge, the grudge match that we were talking about earlier in the night. This former Elevate roster now battling all the way through playoffs to get a chance at battling up against their replacements, in all honesty. And what a storyline that would be going into the grand final. ShadowNet, on the other hand, they've got to win 6 rounds in a row. They want to get themselves that shot at the grand finals. They finished 2nd in regular season, and they want to be booking themselves a shot at winning out the whole damn thing. But unfortunately, they need 6 rounds in a row to make it happen.
Absolutely, and 6 rounds in a row, whether you're playing in ranked and customs or 10-mans or whatever, it's a massive feat not to compact the situation with a competitive level game, to compact it even further with a serious point, which will secure you a position in the grand final, coming up against whether it be a former team or a team that has defeated you before, because obviously Nocturnal was beaten by the attacking team of Elevate and Consulate previously. So both these teams have something to show against Elevate. And before the time has even hit 2 minutes, the frags have come out. That's the Twitch removed in trade for the Vigil. So they do have the roam clear. And that is Deanna getting very aggressive in the Fearlessly area, getting the drone without clearing 90. Time for Pi on the Nomad, starting to push through onto VIP Lounge, making sure that there is no more roaming going on upstairs and that they have total vertical control. They can start to commit to defense. Picked off. Takes a huge amount of damage. Serenity with the P10 shuts down Deanna. That's the Ash removed. 4v3 ShadowNet. You are not in a good position right now, and this is looking very strong for the defending team that is Nocturnal. Both Sophia and Nomad making less than 3/4 of a person. Sawyer, you are the only one on full HP, and you are their only option for verticality. You need to stay alive for as long as possible, and they need to start clicking heads with 1:12 left on the clock.
Time is not on the side of ShadowNet here. Serenity gone on a deep roam towards the luggage, heading towards top one, and might be able to go for the flank. Sees the drone come out, so knows that there is a man less effective, woman less effective at the moment. Tagging up, ticked off even further. 2 players now on the side of ShadowNet with sitting below a quarter health. Soy has to go huge if there was a round to do it. This would be the one. Stalking in. It's ticked off to go down. Serenity with the P10 run. He finds one. Can't find the second, unfortunately. And Pi goes down at that same moment. So Soy has to get the big quad yet again. We've seen her do it before, the big 4K. But, I mean, the pressure is really on at the moment. Frag grenade thrown towards Cool Vibes with 23 seconds left. It's got to come hard and fast right now. And she's pushing down. She's looking for the angle from the courtyard. Sees the ADS, goes for the shot, but will give away the positioning there. They've got to force something. Stalking in from the bottom of Cool Vibes. Swinging in. AJ gets the frag, shuts it down. And Nocturnal will be your second grand finalist team here in the XP Women's League. Dark. Unfortunately, ShadowNet weren't able to bring it back. They got shut down at every turn. 2 7-0s on the night.
Unbelievable. You know, we mentioned it before. Not only were they trading kills, they quite literally traded maps and went 7-0 to 7-0. And of course, that means Nocturnal does go through to the grand finals to verse Elevate. Question will be, obviously, who secures that winning position and takes home the prizes. So a massive effort from the girls. And as you can see on your screens now, grand final being hosted on the 17th of December, Elevate versus Nocturnal. Who will secure first and take the runners-up position behind them? And then, of course, we do have the battle happening of ShadowNet and 71st, because there is still a battle happening for that 3rd place position. So it is still anyone's game, as we have seen tonight. If tonight has proved anything, you can never discount any of the teams coming into this, regardless of their track record or their stats or their KD, because there has been some frags tonight coming out of absolutely nowhere, and AJ a truly commending force. And here it is on your screens right now, a 1 and 2 against Nocturnal. So best of 3. Congratulations to Nocturnal, and of course Elevate besting 71st in a 2 and 0. Phenomenal efforts by all teams involved, and we thank them for their time, their effort, and their energy in what has been a thrilling series to watch thus far.
I have to be honest, though, I'm disappointed. No Carly Hot Breach, no run outside the coastline. There was so much potential. No, the girls played.
Playing for a grand final position, and they wanted to.
They were taking this for serious, but no, the girls on the whole, both teams played some phenomenal Rainbow Six Siege. We saw some huge moments. Soy, even in the face of defeat, found multiple multi-frags in all 3 maps. And yeah, there was some highlight reel moments there for sure across the board. I'm very excited to see how things go into next season, what the girls are going to be bringing in 2021. And I know a couple of the girls that didn't play the season, specifically the Exto female team. They decided to step back and focus on other things. I've heard some talk that maybe they might be coming back in the coming year. So, I mean, as much as, you know, Elevate, they're sitting in first place right now, they and Nocturnal have that shot at the grand finals. They can't feel comfortable, because coming next year, there's definitely room for some upsets. But Dark, thank you very much for joining me for the semi-finals cast. That is us done and dusted for the night. Congratulations to both Nocturnal and Elevate for sitting in the grand finals. They will be playing that one, like we said earlier, on the 17th, so make sure you are back for that and for the 3rd place match between 71st and ShadowNet. We'll see you then, guys.